released, or is it a wash?
Yeah, Kevin, Kathy, good to be with you. I think it's anyone's guess what the candidates will be saying once those results come down at 4 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Eastern. Of course, you saw the Biden camp come out strongly, a letter from their lawyers, kind of really calling into question the whole methodology behind the caucus. I think you're going to see them use that argument to kind of muddy the waters, knowing that their candidate did not likely fall in the top 3 or 4, potentially that 4th position, along with Senator Amy Klobuchar going back and forth. So they're really seeking to somewhat delegitimize the process, I think, raising questions about the process. Their whole game plan, the Biden game plan going into this, was to focus on rural areas in Iowa that we didn't see on television last night, carried by the major networks. So again, I think that's their strategy heading into whatever will be released this afternoon.
Kev, I just want to take it right there with Kathy, because she and I were talking about this earlier on Bloomberg Television and a little bit coming on here. We as reporters, we have to be very careful in separating the spin and also the reality. All right, so there was a glitch, there was an app, there are questions that the Iowa Democratic Party is going to have to answer. But I'm curious, from your perspective, as someone who you've covered every caucus since when, the 90s?
Yes, in 96 probably was my first real caucus.
So at 4 p.m., that's less than a 12-hour delay of getting the results.
Yeah, but today a 12-hour delay might as well be weeks, right?
I know, especially in this climate.
Yeah, I mean, in 2012, the Republicans announced the wrong candidate had won the Iowa caucuses, and it wasn't until almost 2 weeks later that the correct candidate, Rick Santorum, was actually named the right leader. Actually, Ron Paul ended up winning the Iowa caucuses because he got the delegates. But the fact is that in this media environment, any kind of delay, a delay of a few hours, is very, very, very costly.
And Kathy, I mean, just from the perspective of the press, I mean, the Des Moines Register, the front page of the Des Moines Register, and the top site of your website, it wasn't leading with "here's who won." It was leading with this story of the glitch or whatever it was, not impacting the vote tally, but impacting the timeline of why we're not getting a result. And that, especially on the eve before the President's State of the Union address and the eve before, or 2 nights before, acquittal in the Senate, all of which we'll talk about coming up this hour, that matters.
Yeah, well, the black eye for Iowa is one thing, but as Kevin pointed out,
the other Kevin,
yes, the other Kevin, this is a situation where the person who was the national front runner also got kind of a black eye, but because of the way the process works, it doesn't really matter for him. And the candidates who had the opportunity to unseat Joe Biden, especially Buttigieg, but also Bernie Sanders. I think he did well last night. We'll see what happens when the numbers come out. But those candidates spent a lot of time, a lot of effort in Iowa, and they did not get the payoff that they should have had for doing well here.
Precisely, and Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign already saying they're going to be full force in New Hampshire. He's actually going to skip the State of the Union tonight. You mentioned Pete Buttigieg. He was poised to have significant win, or not a win, but a beating of expectations. I don't want to say the word win, but I want to play for you what the former South Bend mayor, Kevin Walling, said last night at one of his rallies. Here's Pete Buttigieg.
The hope that propelled me into this campaign is vindicated every day. It was vindicated in a big way last night when we had a chance to quiet those questions of whether we belonged in this effort in the first place.
So there's Pete Buttigieg, Kevin Walling. But if I'm in the campaign mode and I'm a staffer on one of these campaigns, and you saw this from Klobuchar's folks, they were the first one to run to a mic and get the free media on the networks last night when she came out and realized, hey, wait a minute, we're not getting a result, but I'm going to get some eyeballs on viewership. Okay. If I'm the campaigns, if I'm Joe Biden, if I'm Pete Buttigieg, if I'm Bernie Sanders, and the president's speaking at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and of course you can catch all of that on Bloomberg, if that's happening, when these numbers come out at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. New York time, what are you waiting for? Do you wait for the national news? Do you just go on cable? How do you do this, Kev?
Yeah, I think, and you're seeing, the Buttigieg camp claim victory. I mean, that was a victory address for maybe lacking the results, but that was a full-fledged address last night. Of course, it was the last one to go. I think your point, Kevin, is well taken, that Amy Klobuchar read the room, saw what was happening, got out there quickly to her advantage last night. But, Mayor Pete and his team have been everywhere today in terms of the national news footprint. They hit the ground running in Iowa. He's going to 4 towns, in New Hampshire, rather. He's going to 4 towns across New Hampshire today. And I think they're going to play this up to the extent that they can. I think they had a really strong ground game, which is why they feel so confident based on their own precinct captain reporting, not necessarily the Iowa party, but the folks on the ground for Buttigieg have relayed back over performance in a key number of areas, both rural and suburban, across Iowa. And I think there's reason to be celebratory. To Kathy's point, though, it's all about momentum, and unfortunately we don't have that.
We don't have time, but you're going to stay, Kev. Kevin Walling stays, Kathy Obradovic stays. I'm Kevin Cirilli. You're listening to Bloomberg Radio.
Leaders are born.
What does it take to get the markets back on the rails?
Born leaders are here.
The timeline for that can be slow.
Karen Moscow.
Several nations are negotiating to evacuate diplomats.
And Nathan Hager.
How are you advising clients to navigate the shifting headlines?
Bloomberg Daybreak, weekday mornings at 5 Eastern.
Are we heading into correction territory, do you think?
On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting ace, learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions. Now you're queen of your castle. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll feel empowered to own your retirement like you own your home. Go to aceyourretirement.org, because when it comes to clearing financial hurdles, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that after 75 years, Smokey's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when it's dry or windy. Be careful burning yard waste, because wildfires can even start in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
What if you could keep the top
keys? Check. Phone? Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Good morning, this is your Southern service to London Victoria. Join in our onboard quiz. Here's our next clue. What C sounds like a handheld party food but keeps you dry and protected from the rain? Not canapes, canopies.
At Southern Railway, we're investing over £7 million into making improvements for you, like canopies, cycle parking, and new platform lighting across more of our stations. Find out more and book your tickets at southernrailway.com. Southern Railway, we're with you.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing. And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown. Again.
Search NFL today.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marshawn scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
News 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all rallying. NASDAQ on track for a record right now at 94.53. The old closing high on NASDAQ, 94.02. NASDAQ up now by almost 2%. Stocks rallying along with crude and copper. Treasuries are plunging as investors speculate the global economy can withstand the impact from the still spreading coronavirus after China's market sell-off eased. S&P on track for its best surge since August. NASDAQ 100 index also at a record as the two-day rally continues. Here's where we stand. S&P up 52 now, a gain of 1.6%. The Dow up 451 points, up 1.6%. NASDAQ up 180, up by 2%. 10 years down 22.30 seconds at yield 1.60%. Gold down 1.5%, 15.52 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude oil up 0.2%, $50.20 a barrel. Recapping, equities higher, S&P up 51, up 1.6%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm Kevin Cirilli, Chief Washington Correspondent for Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg Radio, broadcasting live from the downtown Marriott in Des Moines, Iowa, where I'm filling in for David Weston, and we are covering every angle, folks, of the Iowa caucus. Now, the Iowa Democratic Party says they're going to release most of the results at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. New York time. Joining me to break down not just that story, but the upcoming State of the Union address is Kevin Walling, Democratic strategist at HG Creative Media. Kev is back in Washington, D.C., holding down the fort. And Kathy Obradovich, she is, of course, the former political editor of the Des Moines Register, and you just launched a new Iowa-focused outlet called the Iowa Capital Dispatch. Check them out at the capitaldispatch.com.
IowaCapitalDispatch.com.
The IowaCapitalDispatch.com. That's capital with 2 A's. Okay, you and I have a mutual friend, Kath.
Yes.
The legendary Jen Jacobs, who got her start at the Des Moines Register.
Yep, I worked with her for a number of years. I actually was her editor for a while, and I'd like to take credit for keeping her in covering politics. She, at one point, had to be persuaded.
Wow.
Actually, she had to have her arm twisted.
Wow. Jen Jacobs, if you're listening, Jage, Kathy Obradovich is telling your story here. Wow. I'm gonna have to tell her that next time I bump into her, whenever I do, because we're always now traveling so much. Kevin Walling, in a few short hours, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, President Trump delivers his State of the Union address on the eve of a likely acquittal of the Senate impeachment trial, and, I guess, 4 hours after the results of the Iowa caucus. talk about this 72 hours in American history.
Yeah, especially, too, with the Super Bowl as well. We got the acquittal on Wednesday. We've got another Democratic debate on Friday from New Hampshire. And, of course, New Hampshire's just a week from today. So it's a really interesting time in American politics. You know, the folks that I talked to, the aides at the White House, are previewing this speech for tonight. It's going to be heavy on optimism. You know, of course, this is the president's final State of the Union heading into an election year, just 8 months to November. And I think he's going to spend a lot of time, as indications are, speaking about folks in the gallery. So he'll be holding up folks probably on healthcare, on criminal justice reform, on the economy, on manufacturing, in that critical booth up there with the First Lady, and really telling the stories of American citizens that have been impacted over the last 3 years of this administration. He's got a delicate line to toe. Of course, you know, it's kind of an interesting time to be facing impeachment. Just 50 days ago, the House voted, and of course, to be seeing all of those jurors up front tonight, and including, as you said, Kev, the Chief Justice right in the front row. It'll be interesting for sure.
I mean, can you imagine the pageantry of this, Kathy? I mean, you've got House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on the eve of the acquittal, going to be seated directly behind President Trump, and of course, next to Vice President Mike Pence, Chief Justice John Roberts. All of the members of the cabinet, they're all going to be there. So you've got the pageantry element of it. Then you've got the policy. The president, he'll be talking about tariffs. Likely he'll raise the issue of the coronavirus and what the U.S. is doing in order to prevent the coronavirus from spreading in China, further spreading into the United States. Volatility so much so in the markets as the coronavirus has impacted that. And laying out his vision. Who is his audience? Is it the base? Or is it suburban America?
I have to tell you that the pageantry that I think the president prefers is the type that he saw here in Iowa when he had his rally here just this last week.
Amen.
And 2,000 screaming people with the MAGA signs, and he laid it out in a way that was very vintage Trump. One of the lines I remember most from the speech was, it's essentially, if you don't reelect me, your farms are going to hell.
Wow.
And, you know, this is a man who's, you know, really made farmers nervous with his trade wars, his tariffs, and he forcefully was trying to argue that is behind us now, and it's blue skies ahead.
And now with this volatility in the markets with the U.S. and China, and actually because of the coronavirus, that they might actually have to impact the Phase 1 agreement. Kathy, I mean, it's going to be quite interesting and telling to see where that volatility goes in the next 9 months. But let me ask you in terms of who is, I mean, to come back to this point. So you got Trump in Iowa talking to the farmers, talking like you just said, but tonight when he's back on the prompter, and he's laying out his vision for America, he's got to win the suburbs if he wants to get another 4 years.
Yeah, and so I think that issues that are strong in the suburbs here in Iowa would be things like child care. That is a bipartisan issue in Iowa. Our Republican governor is pushing it at the State House, and that is something that the federal government can help with in terms of helping with access to child care to make it more easy for businesses, for example, to add daycare centers in their businesses.
Kevin Walling, we've got a minute left. I'm curious from a who his audience is tonight. The suburbs?
Absolutely. And again, back to the guest that he has in that chamber, it's going to be widows of American service members killed overseas. He's going to play up Soleimani and the ordering of his assassination in Iraq. And it's going to be a play to, I think, patriotism. To your point, Kev, it's all about pageantry. That plays well to the American people, seeing their commander-in-chief front and center. No matter the politics, it's good optics for the president for sure.
And if you're a political junkie, and we all are, Kathy, Kevin Walling, and myself, of course, wow, you've got to watch for 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central Time for the Iowa results. Then you got to watch the State of the Union. Then you got to watch the Democratic response. It's a lot to take in. It is a lot to take in. All right, Kev Walling, thanks so much for joining us. Kathy Obradovich, appreciate it as well. Coming up, we're going to dive into the serious side of this. Election security. How do we protect our elections? The state level, the local level, the federal level. That's coming up. Much more ahead. I'm Kevin Cirilli, Chief Washington Correspondent for Bloomberg Television and Radio, and you're listening to Balance of Power. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Even as the coronavirus continues to spread, investors are less concerned about its global economic impact, and that's sending stocks higher. The Dow is up 478 points. NASDAQ up 2%. S&P 500 up 1.7%. U.S. economic advisor Larry Kudlow says an export boom from the U.S. trade deal with China will be delayed due to the coronavirus outbreak. The government reports factory orders rose 1.8% in December, led by transportation equipment, but there is weakness beneath the headline. Business investment, a much broader category, put in another poor performance. And Dick's Sporting Goods wants to bring more women in the door. It's launching a wide-ranging effort to support women's sports and changes at its stores to offer more products for women and girls. Donna Wilson, Bloomberg Radio.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions. The Bloomberg Business of Sport.
I spy with my little eye something beginning with P.
People.
No, parrot.
I'll have to remember my binoculars next time.
Although you might not be able to see it, your small actions can have a real impact with Shell. Every time you fill up and use Shell Go Plus, you'll be protecting and replanting forests around the world. Make the change. Drive carbon neutral. Shell. Go well. See goplus.shell.com/CO2 for details.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, keep me out the cold jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, East London jobs, West London jobs, extra hour in bed jobs, startup jobs, late start jobs, get home in the daylight jobs, banking jobs, building jobs, flexible working on a Friday jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Good morning, this is your Southern service to London Victoria. Join in our onboard quiz. Here's our next clue. What C sounds like a handheld party food but keeps you dry and protected from the rain? Not canapes, canopies.
At Southern Railway, we're investing over £7 million into making improvements for you, like canopies, cycle parking and new platform lighting across more of our stations. Find out more and book your tickets at southernrailway.com. Southern Railway, we're with you.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing. And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow and tune in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Balance of Power with David Weston.
I'm Kevin Cirilli, Chief Washington Correspondent for Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg Radio, filling in today for David Weston and broadcasting live from downtown Des Moines at the Marriott, where we are eagerly anticipating the release of the Iowa caucus results. In just a few short hours, we're going to get some of those results, and we will, of course, bring you that news as we get those results. And we're going to dive into coming up on the election security issues that were raised as a result of that app and what precisely went wrong with that app. But first, let's get a check of the markets from Charlie Pellet.
All right, I thank you very much, Kevin. It's really all of this on a day when we get the State of the Union address, 9 o'clock Wall Street time. An invitation to join us for coverage heading into that, and of course, analysis once we do get the president's remarks. Again, 9 o'clock Wall Street time, right here on Bloomberg Radio. Stocks rallying along with crude and copper. Treasuries plunging as investors speculate the global economy can withstand the impact from the still spreading coronavirus after China's market sell-off eased. S&P 500 index on track for its best surge since August. NASDAQ 100 index hitting a record as the two-day rally extends. In company news, Tesla extending its torrid run. Shares right now are up 18.2%. That is today. Year to date, Tesla's up 121%. So far today, Tesla up $143, now at $924. Alphabet shares slumping after delivering weak earnings on an update for the rest of the market. Alphabet, parent of Google, down by 3.2%. It is official. The government reports factory orders ended 2019 on a ho-hum note. And with that story, here's Bloomberg's Vinny Del Giudice.
It's a familiar phrase in economics, on the one hand, but on the other. Factory orders rose 1.8% in December, led by transportation. However, business investment, a much broader category, sputtered again. More recent data suggests demand could stabilize. January's ISM factory index signaled growth for the first time since July. Vinny Del Giudice, Bloomberg Radio.
The 10-year down 22.30 seconds, yield 1.60%. Gold down 1.6%, 15.51 the ounce. Crude oil moving higher, little changed, up 0.1%, 50.16. Talking about West Texas Intermediate crude. Recapping on the averages and indexes, S&P up 51, up 1.6%. The Dow up 450 now, also up 1.6%. NASDAQ at a record up 182, higher by 2%. Lots going on in the markets. Lots going on in Iowa. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Balance of Power continues. Once again, here's your host. Here he is, Kevin Cirilli.
Thank you, Charlie Pellet. I'm Kevin Cirilli, Chief Washington Correspondent for Bloomberg TV and Radio, filling in for David Weston. And we're broadcasting live, of course, from Des Moines, where we're covering the Iowa caucuses. We're going to get those results, some of those results, at 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. New York time. David Becker's on the line. He is the Executive Director at the Center for Election Innovation and Research. David, all right. I'm thrilled that you're joining us because when I was prepping for this interview, the top thing that came to mind, top question that I have for you is, this could happen anywhere. I mean, rightfully so, the Iowa Democratic Party has questions, but this could happen at local elections, statewide elections, county elections, and federal elections. So what can American government elected officials do to prevent this stuff from happening?
So the good news is that this is extremely unlikely virtually impossible to happen in any other elections because of the unique nature of the Iowa caucuses. It's important to note that this was a election result, a caucus result reporting app. It just reported the results. It was not counting results. The counts were all done by precinct captains and others at the locations where the caucuses were held. In Iowa, every single vote, everything was done on paper, and unlike a primary election, there's no secret ballot. So they can actually confirm this with individuals later on. So the good news is, regarding specifically Iowa, we will learn the results at some point. It's going to take a little bit longer than we expected, and those results will be valid. I'm very confident in the counting of them. But with regard to other elections, no other election is run this way. Every other election, every other primary and general election that we're going to hold is being run by professional election administrators, people who do this every day on technology and according to laws that are well in place, that have been really secured since 2016. This is run by the Iowa Democratic Party. It's a totally different thing.
So I hear you on that front, and I'm appreciative of the context that you're bringing here. But respectfully, I mean, the Iowa caucus matters. I mean, we can have a debate. There's a debate over how much it matters. But when I hear you say that the other primaries and caucuses are run by professionals, my follow-up is, well, wait a minute, why aren't the professionals running the Iowa caucus? And I think it's
it's the difference between a caucus and a primary. There are very few caucuses left. Caucuses are specifically defined as being run by the parties. They're not secret ballots. They're events where they bring hardcore partisans together to vote in public. Everyone can see who they're voting for. They try to convince others to vote for their candidate. We have very few of those left. New Hampshire is an official primary run by the professional election officials. South Carolina is an official primary run by the election officials. Super Tuesday, all primaries run by the election officials. Same people running elections in November. The Iowa caucuses, the professionals there are people like the Secretary of State Paul Pate, who's one of the best. They have county election administrators do this for a living. They do not get involved in the caucuses, and it's one of the reasons that actually, caucuses are less democratic than other elections. It's a really unusual event. Whether we should continue to have them, I'll leave open for other people. But in order to participate in the caucus, you got to take a couple hours off. You've got to go someplace in person at a particular time. So it's really difficult for a lot of people to participate, and it does look like turnout was a little bit lower than people expected.
All right, David Becker's on the line. David Becker, of course, is the executive director at the Center for Election Innovation and Research. And there's this broader debate that's been had about paper ballots, backup ballots, where the servers are for the ballots. Should it all be run by a federal commission? And I would argue that the developments of the past 12 hours is really going to pour gasoline on a broader political discussion about how elections are run in this country and the patchwork of regulations and the patchwork of dynamics as opposed to one overall system here. But I think top line view, Dave, when you're looking at this thing from afar, there's human error. Remember the hanging chads and all of that down in Florida? And then there's technological error, and whether it's 2016 and other social media campaigns and whatnot, or it's the Iowa Democratic Party, I think, and I'm curious for your take on this, what this just illustrated is, oh my, that technical error, even in this age of artificial intelligence and technology, still could impact at least the news cycle and hopefully never the count at the ballot.
So I think that's right. Technical error, though, is human error. It means a human broke down at some point in the process. And we have a decentralized election system that makes it very difficult, actually, to have one big target. It's really hard to affect votes in a variety of places. But we do need checks and balances. And the good news is, since 2016, we've gone to many more paper ballots. That means we have records of voter intent that we can go back and audit. Over 90% of all voters, including all of the voters in all of the battleground states, will be voting on paper. There will be more audits of that paper than ever before. That's the double check. That means we're counting the ballots, often using machines, but human beings are going back and confirming that those ballot counts were accurate. There's a very, very strong process around that to make sure that we're statistically accurate. And I think most importantly, a lot of the talk about election insecurity is being amplified and promoted by our foreign adversaries, by Russia and others. They want citizens and democracies to doubt that their votes matter, that they'll be counted properly. They want the loser and the loser's supporters to doubt that the election was right and to be angry about it. And so it's really been important, all of the work that's been done by election officials over the course of the last 4 years to secure our elections, that voters understand that means their votes are going to count and they're going to be counted properly.
All right, David Becker, Executive Director at the Center for Election Innovation and Research. Thank you for checking in with us and giving us an update and some context on all of the different regulatory and technological hurdles that exist there and here in Des Moines, Iowa. Coming up, we're going to have a preview of the State of the Union address from a foreign policy standpoint. Lester Munson will check in with us. He's a former top advisor on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I'm Kevin Cirilli, Chief Washington Correspondent for Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg Radio, and you're listening to Balance of Power. This is Bloomberg.
Hey y'all, Jeff Foxworthy here. Now, if you've ever found yourself repeating the same thing over and over for 75 years, you might be Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
That's why I'm filling in for Smokey to switch things up, because there's a lot more to say. And I should know because my grandfather was a firefighter. And one of the things he taught me is that the people that love the outdoors the most are often the ones accidentally starting wildfires, which means always BYOB. No, bring your own bucket to the campfire. And be extra careful with things like burning yard trimmings. Don't just walk away, or chances are you might be starting a wildfire. So for the love of the outdoors, go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
At Ring, we've reinvented the doorbell. So no matter where you are or what time of day, you can watch over your home and the things you care about. Ring Video Doorbell streams HD video and two-way talk straight to your phone, so you can speak to whoever's at your door from anywhere.
Delivery.
Oh, great. Could you leave it with my neighbour, please?
Sure, no problem.
And it's so simple, you can install it yourself in minutes. See, hear and speak to whoever's at your door from wherever you are with Ring Video Doorbell. Available at ring.com and selected retailers.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing. And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Along the goal line, scores! It takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Move, hit a shot, they score!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today. Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. NASDAQ and the NASDAQ 100 Index, both at records. S&P on track for its best surge since August. Stocks are rallying. Treasuries plunging as investors speculate the global economy will withstand any impact from the still spreading coronavirus after China's market sell-off eased. We've got the S&P up 53 points, up 1.6%. The Dow up 476 points, now up by 1.7%. NASDAQ again at a record at 94.62, up 189 points, higher right now by 2%. Worth pointing out that in the year-to-date column, NASDAQ is up by 5.5%. 10-year down 23.30 seconds, yield 1.60%. Gold down 1.6%, 15.51 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude oil flat right now, $50.10 a barrel. So again, recapping, stocks are advancing. NASDAQ at a record, S&P up by 1.6%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Balance of power continues. Back we go to Iowa. Once again, here he is, Kevin Cirilli.
Thank you. I'm Kevin Cirilli, Chief Washington Correspondent for Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg Radio. We're awaiting the results of the Iowa caucus. We're going to bring them to you at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. New York time. They're going to have most of the results. Of course, we're also following the developments with the State of the Union address. The president's going to deliver that at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and you can watch all of that on Bloomberg. David Weston will be anchoring for our coverage of that. He's on a flight, I believe, as we speak, back to Washington, D.C. But now to get a preview of that State of the Union address is an expert on foreign policy, and I want to specifically discuss foreign policy here with Lester Munson. He's the principal at government relations firm BGR Group and an adjunct faculty member at the Johns Hopkins University. Lester, from a foreign policy perspective, what are you going to be listening for tonight?
Well, I think the president has a lot to work with. He has done
positive things in terms of Iran in the Middle East. He killed one of the leading terrorist actors, Qasem Soleimani, a few weeks ago. That was a popular move. He's changed the dynamic there. And it also, interestingly, looks like in Syria, his decision to pull U.S. troops back from the front has led to this battle between Assad and Turkey, which is frankly good for U.S. interests. We're out of the way. Two antagonists can have at it. I think that actually makes Trump look good. He now has to go out there and explain those steps, make them a little bit more palatable to the American people, and show how, while on the one hand, he's hitting bad guys, he's also pulling us away from the conflict in the Middle East. Excellent point there on the latter. Let's go to the former, though, for a follow-up, because this is where the pageantry of the State of the Union really, really comes into effect, particularly on the killing of General Qasem Soleimani. And you know this, Lester, as having advised the former chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Bob Corker, who is now retired, the Republican from Tennessee. You know this, that when the president discusses Qasem Soleimani, every Republican is going to stand up, they're going to applaud, they're going to cheer, and the cameras in the room are going to be looking to see how lawmakers react, how lawmakers in Democratic circles react. Are they not? Well, and that's exactly right. And even standing right behind the president will be Speaker Pelosi, who's in a tough spot because she produced the resolution that would limit the president's ability to act against Iran. So is she going to stand up and applaud when he talks about killing Soleimani? That's going to be the first test. And then you're right, when they pan the crowd, what are Democrats going to do? It was a good move. It was a popular move, not without some controversy. But what will they do when he starts talking about Soleimani? It's a tough spot for Democrats. Meanwhile, the president could also discuss Israel and the new Middle East peace plan that comes out. And that's another applause line that I'm going to be carefully watching for, to see how Democrats react, to see how Speaker Pelosi reacts, to see how Democrats, whether or not, they're receptive of the president's support of Israel. It's a plan not without controversy, but it's been well received in Israel. Even some Sunni Arab leaders have said things that are not negative about it, which in the terms of Middle East politics is a plus. There have been some other statements that are negative, of course. The Palestinians have rejected the terms. Doesn't mean that the plan is totally dead. It is innovative. It's new. It is a departure from the norm, and frankly, the norm hasn't been getting us very far. So I think, again, the president does have kind of the whip hand here. He's sitting in a good spot on foreign policy issues for the State of the Union. Lester Munson, give me one more quick take. Dive into the weeds for me. Give me one more thing that people should be paying attention for from foreign policy perspective tonight during the president's address that they're not going to hear anywhere else. But from you, Lester Munson, no pressure. Well, watch what he says about China. Right? We just had kind of a ceasefire in the trade wars between the United States and China. The president still is going to have some tariffs imposed on the Chinese economy. The Chinese economy is plummeting because of the coronavirus. What will he say about that? What kind of indications can we get for a new direction on U.S.-China bilateral relations? That's the most important foreign policy question in the world on any given day. The markets have recovered from what happened with coronavirus, at least the American markets have. What are the next steps? I think a lot of investors are going to be looking at what he says about China. Exactly. And the Chinese are going to be listening to see what he has to say about China. And that coronavirus really could upend the phase one of the U.S.-China trade deal. Lester Munson, my buddy, my friend, principal at government relations firm BGR Group. I always learn something when I talk to you, and an adjunct faculty member at the Johns Hopkins University. Appreciate you breaking down that foreign policy preview of the president's State of the Union address. Now, the legendary Jason Kelly, who's going to be giving us a preview of Bloomberg Business Week with Jason and Carol. All right, Jace, I'm here in Iowa.
Are you still upright? What's
still awake.
happening?
I don't know. You know what, Jason? I don't know if I'm dreaming or if I'm awake at this point.
I'm a fever dream. I'm just a fever dream for you, Kevin. Yes. Well, we are going to take over in just a little bit. We're obviously keeping a close eye on what's going on out there with you, eagerly awaiting what happens at 5 p.m. We're going to talk to you.
Anytime they want to give us a result adult.
Yeah, you're ready. You're ready to take it.
Yeah.
We do have Disney earnings coming out later. People are going to be closely watching that.
Yes.
We're actually going to catch up with a big investor on the venture capital side who knows a lot about the streaming world. Are you a Disney Plus guy? You don't really watch TV, right?
No, I watch a lot of reality television, but I am intrigued by Disney Plus because I want to know, and I'm wondering, I guess we'll know shortly about whether or not the launch has been deemed successful, right?
Well, by all accounts, it has been, and it'll be interesting to see when they put the numbers out where they are, especially since we did get a read from Netflix already this earnings season, sort of where they stack up, because obviously the competition is fierce. We're also going to talk about some changes over at Goldman Sachs. They're losing some top executives. And meanwhile, amid all of this, and you just alluded to this with your guest just a minute ago, the market's trending higher, just bouncing right back, even despite things going on out there with you, things going on with the coronavirus. And the other thing we should take note of.
Lump me in
Tesla.
with the coronavirus, Jason.
No, things going on with you, and the coronavirus. Yes, sorry. I need to delineate those.
To go back to Disney Plus just for a second, the thing that I don't understand is the ESPN element of this, and whether or not you can watch live sports on the streaming app, or if you still have to have cable. That's where I get confused, Jace.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I have been researching this too because I, like you, am a big sports fan. We can't figure it out in our household exactly how to get it. Apparently, live sports, you can get a lot of it via Hulu, which you can get as part of the Disney Plus bundle, and of course, there's ESPN Plus as well. So it's a good question. As always, you're asking the right questions.
Wow. All right. Well, Jason Kelly, Carol Master, I'm a huge fan of your guys' show and your program and everything, and of course, I'm very appreciative of you, Jason, my boss here at Bloomberg. Coming up on Bloomberg Business Week, stick around for them. That does it for me for now. I'm Kevin Cirilli, Chief Washington Correspondent for Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg Radio. Check me out on Bloomberg Radio DC, where 99.1 FM, where I'll be on Sound on Radio. Thanks for listening. This is Bloomberg.
Let's get this right, sir. You didn't see three men dressed as clowns take off in a van with a Renaissance painting because you were distracted by, and I quote, a sporty red compact SUV with a bold mesh grille, a sculpted bonnet with sweeping roofline on diamond-cut alloys.
And beautiful rear haunches.
So, you saw a Jaguar E-Pace. But what about the clowns?
What clowns?
Jaguar E-Pace, designed to steal attention. Search Jaguar E-Pace.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Welcome to Cathay Island. We hope you've enjoyed flying Cathay Airways. Oh, and Cathay, congratulations on the Euro Millions win.
In tonight's Euro Millions, there are 20 UK millionaires guaranteed. That's dream come true money. Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Estimated jackpot. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing. And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds, or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown to Kansas.
Search NFL today.
At Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Business Week. Insight from the reporters and editors who bring you America's most trusted business magazine. Plus, global business, finance, and tech news as it happens. Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Messer and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
Live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio, streaming on YouTube. Welcome to Bloomberg Business Week for this Tuesday, February 4th, 2020. Lots of uncertainty out there, Jason, from the outcome of the Iowa caucuses to the skyrocketing run-up of Tesla shares and Goldman being rocked by a tech tumult. And then you've also got the coronavirus. We still don't know the impact of that.
All of those things are hanging out there, and yet
we got a rally.
Green on the screen.
Green on the screen. So we're going to get into that over the next 4 hours. Let's get you going, though, on this Tuesday with the Bloomberg Business Flash and Charlie Pillar.
Happy Tuesday. You guys mentioned Tesla. Got to begin there. Look at that stock. It is up 19% right now, 928.12. Yes, 900 handle on Tesla, surging $148 a share right now. Year to date, it is up 121.8%. Tesla rallying, rest of the market close to an all-time high today, at least for NASDAQ, a record there, up 190 points, up 2.1% right now. We have got the S&P 500 index pushing higher by 54 points, up 1.8%. Dow Industrials rallying 484 points, up 1.7%. Markets rebounding for a second day. Anxiety levels over the coronavirus are easing, and some venturing that last night's Iowa caucus might have also provided some hope for the incumbent. We have got the S&P up 54, up by 1.6%, tenured on 23.30 seconds at yield there, 1.60%. Gold down 1.5%, 15.51 the ounce. Crude oil flat, $50.11 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks a lot. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. I love when you give me the what?
Well, you just said at the break while Charlie was finishing up the report, NASDAQ's up 2%, Tesla's up 19%.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that throughout the next few hours. But it's just, how do you get your head around the worries and then the fundamentals
the worries
versus
and,
the market moves?
Yeah, exactly. Iowa certainly is something that is top of mind for sure. Later on in the show, in this coming hour, in just a few minutes, we're going to check back in with Kevin Cirilli. Later on, probably around 5 p.m. Eastern, we're told we should get some results, at least partial results from what went on there last night. Also, State of the Union is happening tonight as well.
It's a busy week when it comes to politics, certainly here in the United States.
And
so we'll have that. Speaking of previews, speaking of results, we're going to hear about Disney's results when it comes to their overall business, but everybody's kind of really interested in about their streaming business. So we're going to get those earnings. We'll break them down after the close, talk with Tuna Amobi. We'll also talk with one influential venture capitalist about the streaming wars, Mark Patrikoff. He invests in this space, knows a lot about it, so he's going to weigh in.
And if you're making a lot of money in the market right now, you may want to diversify into classic cars.
I'm in.
We're going to tell you where to buy.
Yeah,
Hannah Elliott's going to be along for that. All right. In the meantime, let's set the Business Week agenda right now. Joe Weisenthal is here, the markets editor for Bloomberg and the co-host of What You Miss. That's coming up at 4 p.m. Wall Street time over on BTV. And Dave Wilson, stocks editor for Bloomberg, author of the chart and stock of the day, also here with us in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. So, Dave Wilson, is this just a what me worry market? Like, what's happening here?
What's happening?
With the backdrop that we have and an equity market that is going.
Well, when you think about the backdrop, the real question is how much of an issue is the coronavirus going to be for companies going forward? Give you a perfect example. Ralph Lauren, they've shut down half of their 110 stores in China. And yet, when you looked at their latest quarterly results, they were just fine, thank you. The growth in the Americas and in Europe and in Asia, once you take out, say, Hong Kong, where, of course, you had the disruptions last quarter from the protests, right? Beating estimates. So Ralph Lauren's doing just fine, and their earnings, show as much, and the stock's up 10%. Second biggest gain in the S&P 500. And the biggest one is interesting simply because of the follow-through from Tesla that we're seeing today with the companies that make the lithium that go into batteries. and it's Albemarle up almost 11%.
I always think of our supply chain function on the Bloomberg. This is when like somebody's benefiting, their business is doing well, then I want to see all the people there selling to and buying from. I know.
Albemarle.
So, number one thing, Joe, that you think folks need to know about on this Tuesday?
There's a great story that just came out on the Bloomberg, and it's online now too, by Drew Armstrong, and he argues that the next 3 or 4 days are really going to be critical because looking at the virus, we know that the lockdown happened, I think it was about 10 days ago now, and the virus has an incubation period of 10 to 14 days. So right now, there are not many instances of the virus outside of Hubei province. That's good news. But the big scare is that we start seeing more Hubeis or more Wuhans. And so we'll know in the next few days whether that lockdown really did sort of contain the virus to some extent in that city, or whether there was enough sort of leakage early on before it was starting to take seriously. And right now, obviously, people are feeling not too anxious about it. But if we start to see more cities where it starts to spread, it could re-spook this market.
The only thing I would say is provided that we were told when it first started hitting, right?
Well, that's the key thing. We don't know. I mean, the only thing we really know, it appears, is that there's not another Wuhan yet. There's not another city in which the virus appears to be running rampant. But that could still emerge because we don't know the degree to which it started spreading in other cities before the lockdown. Now, we certainly... I think a lot of people have a lot of questions about the reliability of the data in the city of Wuhan itself. I think there are many people believe that there's some sort of undercounting or a limit to the capacity to testing. Now the question is, are there going to be more hotspots, or will it just be sort of a trickle outside the city? We'll soon find out.
What's top of mind for you? I mean, pick and choose. What are you seeing?
Two things that with all
only
this.
Get one.
Sorry, I'm a 2-for-1 kind of gal.
Right.
Just real quickly, I feel like there's still a conversation about the flattening of the yield curve that's out there, and so people watching that. And then global investors have never had this much gold stashed in ETFs. It's risen to a record, a long run of accumulation, and certainly given a bit of a kick and boost because of the coronavirus. So I just think that's kind of interesting. There was a peak setback, I guess, in 2012. So now we've, it looks like, surpassed that. So I just think that's kind of fascinating that that's a risk-off trade typically, right? A safe haven. Yeah. And yet equity markets continue to churn higher and so on and so forth. What's your must read?
I got to go back to Tesla only because this story is the fourth most read over the past hour. The Saudi fund, sovereign fund, sold almost all of its Tesla holding last quarter, so missing out completely on this run up. Now, to be fair, Tesla had a nice run toward the back half of last year, but I mean, what is it up? It's doubled this year, right?
It's over 100%. And I'm just, if you look at a chart, it was kind of moving along, and it wasn't really until I feel like mid-December that it really shot up. Yeah. So, wah.
So they had 39,151 shares at the end of the year. The fund previously had more than 8.2 million shares, ranked among the 5 biggest owners.
I'm just saying.
There you go. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Joe Weisenthal, markets editor for Bloomberg, co-host of What'd You Miss? Catch him at 4 p.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg Television. Dave Wilson, he's going to be back with us throughout the show. Catch him next at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour for his chart of the day.
The Tesla chart last year is like straight. Oh, December.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, let's get the Bloomberg Business Week bite of the day. One number that tells us a lot, as Jason mentioned. Today's number, nice and round, $11 billion. Coke has bought the rest of Infor in a deal said to be valued at $11 billion. Now, the private investment arm of Coke Industries, of course, run by billionaire Charles Koch.
We're talking about the KOCH, not the COKE,
exactly.
Just to be clear.
And as many people call them, or used to, right? The Koch brothers. I know there was a passing over, I think, the last year, right?
That's right.
His brother has acquired, Coke Industries, the private investment arm of Coke Industries, buying the remaining equity in cloud software maker Infor. The company's putting out a statement. Coke Industries, as you know, the Kansas-based conglomerate, already owned about 70% of Infor. So just kind of tying it up, if you will.
Infor, I believe, isn't that where the former president of Cisco works? I'm blanking on his name.
Are you pulling a master?
Now. What's that? I am pulling a master. There's an individual who used to work at Cisco who is the CEO of Infor.
We'll work on that. We'll get some clarity.
All right, let's get to Bob Moon. He's got world national headlines. Say, Bob.
Thank you, Jason. We're stuck on news that's not happening today. The impeachment trial in the Senate, for one thing, they're taking a break today so as not to overshadow President Trump's State of the Union address. That's not stopping lawmakers from talking about their voting plans, largely along party lines. They're taking to the floor of the chamber today to explain how they plan to vote tomorrow afternoon on the articles of impeachment. Bloomberg's Herb Chapman reports from Washington.
Democrats, including Tina Smith of Minnesota, recounted the case against President Trump.
Do we say that it is okay for the president to use his office to advance his personal political interest while ignoring or damaging the public good? No.
Republican Rand Paul of Kentucky.
The Democrats accused the president of using his governmental office to go after his political opponent. The irony is, they then used the impeachment process to go after their political opponent.
Paul went on to assail the government personnel who sparked the investigations of President Trump, Russia, and Ukraine. In Washington, Irv Chapman, Bloomberg Radio.
Something else that still hasn't happened. We continue to await official results from last night's Iowa caucuses. It's a gaffe that has Democrats fuming and Republicans gloating. Vice President Mike Pence's chief of staff, Mark Short, says the president will likely address that in tonight's State of the Union address. Trump already tweeted it shows Democratic incompetence.
They seem unable to run a caucus in Iowa. So I think as long as there's confusion on their side, I think it allows the president to be able to tell more of his story, which is what he'll be doing.
We'll bring you the State of the Union address tonight at 9 with David Weston right here on Bloomberg Radio. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take. By Bloomberg, I'm Bob Moon.
In the real world, there are no rabbits in hats, crystal balls, or cards that turn into money. Instead, you get business information from top-tier analysts and experts.
What should expectations be for this latest round of negotiations?
That's actually better, isn't it?
They're both trying to say they have the upper hand.
Bloomberg Markets with Paul Sweeney and Lisa Abramowitz. Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
What if you... Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded. Check.
Forget about Tesla. They bought
There's one more thing you should check before you leave.
Not to sell
your travel.
8 times along
There's
the way.
a new cycleway under construction
they got a
between
tax
Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre. So expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
I've got my own place now, Money. My parents put up the 10% security. And when I keep up my repayments, they get it back with interest in 5 years from Barclays. And now we can do whatever we want. Right, Dave? We don't have to tiptoe up the stairs. I can paint the living room purple. Don't look at me like that, Money. It's my house. Barclays Family Springboard Mortgage. Make money work for you.
Your home may be repossessed if mortgage payments are missed. Deposit returned with interest after 5 years if no repayments missed. Subject to application, financial circumstances, and borrowing history. T's and C's apply.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
15, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing. And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds, or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught, it is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
4 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ are all advancing. Stocks at the best level of the day right now. NASDAQ up 197 points. Record there also for the NASDAQ 100 index. NASDAQ rallying 2.1%. S&P 500 index up 56 points right now. That is a gain of just about 1.7%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average higher by 495 points. That is a gain of 1.8%. Tenured on 22.30 seconds, yield 1.60%. Gold down 1.6%, 15.51 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude down 0.5%, 49.86 a barrel. WTI lower, back below $50 a barrel. Bottom line, stocks are rallying as investors speculate the global economy will withstand any impact from the still spreading coronavirus after China's market sell-off eased. Recapping, stocks pushing higher. S&P up 56, up 1.7%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Jason Kelly and Carol Masser. And obviously, as we go through the day, a lot of stories we're going to be looking at. What's catching most read right now?
I just keep watching. We've got a function now on the Bloomberg VRUS, right, about the virus. And cases are now topping 20,600. SEC warning of coronavirus scams. I mean, there's a lot going on here when it comes to this situation. And so 17,000 is what we reported yesterday. So that's a big bump up. And so we're going to continue to watch those numbers. So that's one of the big stories. Certainly the other big story has to do with Iowa.
Absolutely. Everything that went on last night is continuing into today at a moment where we thought, okay, we're looking to the State of the Union, we're looking to New Hampshire, we're still looking at Iowa. And guess who's still there in Iowa? Kevin Cirilli. I caught up with him at the end of the show. Do you want to come home yet?
I was about to take a nap.
I was just about to take a nap, but I said no.
Not yet.
Talk to Carol and Jason.
Not yet.
No sleep until November, I guess, right? I've been saying that for 4.5 years now. All right, so listen, we're going to get the results at about 4 o'clock local today. Some of the majority of the results, this according to the Iowa Democratic Party. And from there, that's only a few hours before the State of the Union address. So it's going to be fascinating if you're a political watcher to look to see whether or not, if you're Bernie Sanders, you could talk before or after the President's State of the Union. Buttigieg, whose camp is already claiming victory, how do they spin this? How do they get the national attention ahead of the President's State of the Union address? And, of course, Biden, who has been, his campaign has been lobbying some concerns about the process of this entire debate. So it'll be very interesting to see in just a few short hours how all of this plays out.
And so, Kevin, how does this change the calculus for those candidates that you mentioned and some others going into New Hampshire? Because usually there's at least a storyline that people are comfortable with in terms of, how many they say, and, this Argot much better than I, sort of how many tickets come out of Iowa. It seems like that whole question is potentially moot at this point.
That's such a great point, Jason. It's a really great point, because I think in terms of where the dynamics go, there would have been a lot of pressure for some of these lower tier candidates to drop out of the race between now and New Hampshire. And quite frankly, because the caucus was such a raucous and thrown into chaos, that there really is less of an impetus for them to do that, because why would you get out of a race that really is being called into question? So on that point, I think it really just only intensifies the dynamics of New Hampshire. And then it's off to Nevada and, of course, Super Tuesday.
I have to say, I was watching you guys at noon on Bloomberg Television. I know it was simulcasting on Bloomberg Radio. Kevin, you were talking with our Craig Gordon, our Washington bureau chief, and I loved, he said, Democrats look like they can't even run their own election. Like this, just the optics on this. And I know you kind of pushed back, but the optics on this is really rough.
Well, no, I mean, listen, I always agree with Craig Gordon. Whatever Craig says goes. He's
smart man.
So I'm not trying to publicly, no, but I mean, look, the optics are terrible. President Trump tried to capitalize that on this morning when he tweeted out that, he mentioned the Obamacare website debacle. And I think when you take a deep breath, though, and you pause on this, frighteningly so, it just shows that even in this technological age, this could happen anywhere. And I did a lot of reporting and talking to sources in Washington ahead of the midterm elections and just what was going on at the state and federal level to protect the integrity of the midterm elections. And there is a patchwork. We always talk about regulations being a patchwork. When it comes to elections at the local, county, state, federal level, it's a patchwork of different companies that are involved and regulations and how ballots are counted. Remember the hanging chads? It's even more complex now in this day and age. So regardless of what party you're in, and, the brunt, rightfully so, the Iowa Democratic Party taking a lot of heat today. But, what if this happened on Super Tuesday? That was what was running through my mind.
Right.
And I don't say it as a joke either. I mean, this is an incredibly, incredibly serious dynamic.
I agree. I want to go back to something you said at the top, Kevin, and I'm watching some Twitter activity about, as you said, the Biden campaign maybe looking to question the Iowa caucus results. Apparently, they may seek a court injunction to halt the release of those results. I mean, what if that happens? What would that mean? What would that do?
So this is where I think it's important to differentiate the spin from the reality.
Okay.
Because, look, prior to the start of the caucus, you had 41 delegates at stake, and everyone was saying, well, does it really matter? Is it indicative of the Democratic Party as a whole? And there's more than about 3,200 delegates total. So you're only fighting for a fraction of percentage points in terms of the grand thing. And so if Biden underperforms, and then perform strong in New Hampshire, why wouldn't you, if you're in Biden world, try to completely drag out the caucus process and completely question the caucus process and bank that you're going to perform stronger? Now, It's a risky proposition because if you subscribe to the school of thought that says, well, if he underperforms in Iowa, what makes you think he's going to overperform elsewhere? Well, we'll find out.
Right. All right, 30 seconds. Kevin, what's the main thing you're looking to hear from the president tonight at State of the Union?
Well, I'm a nerd, so foreign policy. I want to know what he has to say about foreign policy as it relates to Iran. I want to know what he has to say about Latin America and relates to the expansion of Hezbollah and in that region, and the nonpartisan issues that Republicans and Democrats agree on from a national security standpoint.
All right, Kevin Cirilli, thank you so much. Chief Washington correspondent joining us from Iowa. He'll be up late again tonight looking at the State of the Union.
And be sure to tune in for our special coverage of President Trump's State of the Union address featuring also David Weston. That kicks off, as Jason mentioned, 9 p.m. Wall Street time right here on Bloomberg Radio. Michael Bloomberg, of course, also seeking the Democratic presidential nomination. Mike is the founder and majority owner of Bloomberg LP, the parent company of Bloomberg News. All right, coming up next, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk a little M&A. The co-head of Global M&A from RBC is going to be along. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks continue to show big gains on growing expectations that the economy can withstand any impact from the coronavirus. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 494. The S&P 500 is up 55. The Nasdaq Composite up 196. Macy's is closing its technology offices in San Francisco and moving the operation to New York and Atlanta. The move will affect nearly 900 employees and 200 contractors. Some will be able to transfer, others will be offered severance. Royal Caribbean says few of its customers are worried about the coronavirus. The cruise operator says just 1.5% of its callers in the West are asking about it, suggesting that most vacationers are taking the threat in stride. Dyson is working on headphones that not only sound good, but clean the air you breathe. A patent filing by the company envisions headphones that include a system that provides purified air to the wearer. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions. The markets.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing.
And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marshawn scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
You can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
The Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
All right, coming up, we're going to get into the world of deal making. We got the perfect guest.
It could kind of go anywhere.
It could go anywhere.
It
could go anywhere.
The mood in this room.
Haircuts.
Haircuts.
We don't know.
Bleaching your hair.
You don't know. You're going to have to tune in. Bloomberg Radio and YouTube. You can see the haircuts. All right, let's get over to Charlie Pellet first. He's got an update on the trade.
And here's what's going on. We have got the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all advancing on this Tuesday here. Stocks rallying, treasuries plunging as investors speculate the global economy will withstand any impact from the still spreading coronavirus after China's market sell-off eased. Here's where we stand. S&P 500 index up now, higher by 54 points. That is a gain of 1.7%. Dow Jones Industrial Average up 473 points, up 1.7%. And NASDAQ up 195 points at 94.69. That is a record, up right now by 2.1%. 10-year down 22.30 seconds with a yield of 1.60%. Gold is down 1.6% right now, 15.51 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate also declining, dropping 1% right now, 49.60 a barrel on WTI. Brent down 0.9%, 53.96. Cannot ignore Tesla today. Shares surging 18.7%, up $146 a share at $9.26. All told, Tesla shares up 122% this year, giving the electric vehicle maker a market value greater than that of GM, Fiat Chrysler, and Volkswagen combined. After the bell, we will be hearing from the Walt Disney Company. Disney shares up now by 2.6%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Mr. Pellet, thank you so much. We want to get right into it, talk about the M&A world. Vito Sperduto is co-head of global mergers and acquisitions at RBC Capital Markets in our Interactive Broker Studio, along with the one and only Ed Hammond, deals reporter at Bloomberg News. So nice to have both of you here. Vito, let's just get right to it. What's the M&A environment look like? We had a bunch of deal activity, big deals late last year. Is that going to continue?
Yeah, look, I think it was an interesting year last year. It was kind of two halves. So the M&A market was completely made by large deals in the first half of 2019. And so if you looked at the U.S. market, it was fully driven where it was up over 50% in the first half because large deals were up that much. The European market, just given the uncertainty and the political climate over there, was actually off over 60% in the first half. And even though they had a massive rally in the second half, they were still down 25% last year. I think a lot of what we're seeing now are the trends that developed in the second half. A lot of the transactions are of a size kind of $1 to $5 billion, kind of mid-size, more bite-size for corporates. more doable for private equity firms. But conditions are pretty strong right now. We are sitting at financing rates, if you see the markets from a debt financing perspective and the volumes that are occurring there, they're hungry for M&A product. Right now, so many companies are repricing their debt financing, but there isn't a lot of new M&A product. And so as that comes to market, that's really available. Stock prices are near all-time highs. And then cash on balance sheets and dry powder in private equity funds, again, kind of near all-time highs for private equity, near all-time highs for corporates. And so you have a lot of really good conditions. I do think it's a first half of this year market. So when you look at the second half, I'm sure it'll extend into it. But if you can get your deal done first half of this year and not have to deal with the political uncertainty, and we're sitting here on a day when you can't call an election in such a caucus. A caucus, excuse me. And so based
can't even call a caucus, bro.
It's gonna be a new bumper sticker.
Yeah. Imagine a deal was done like that. You're going to sort of partially announce a deal and then going to trickle it out over days and days. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, and it's difficult. I think the problem right now is people look at it and there are a lot of key assets that people want to sell because they weren't able to last year. And so there's a lot of pent-up demand, both in terms of buying and selling. And as a result, I think people want to make sure that, I'm not going to risk uncertainty. And if I can get it out sooner, and that's what we're seeing from our clients right now. But there's not a lot of large deal flow versus what we saw last year, where you saw some real blockbusters in that first half of the year.
And so in the immediate term, how much is your phone ringing or your email box filling up with concerns from a CEO who might be thinking about selling around coronavirus?
So, look, I think that impacts you if you're dealing with business that skews into Asia, China more specifically. So you saw some IPOs get pushed out, and I think some were because of exposure to that market. Some were just because of concerns on volatility. I think, M&A deals don't happen when there's uncertainty. And so you need to be certain about your performance. You need to be certain about the market performance. And so I think the risk is more, it's going to be isolated to certain areas. Now, we've spent a lot of time looking at this, and I would tell you the amount that the Chinese economy accounts for the global economy is much more significant than if you go back to SARS.
Yes.
Right? So if you go back to 2003, I saw a statistic for luxury goods. A third of all luxury goods today are sold in China.
Yeah, we've talked about the fall off in Hong Kong.
Yeah, 10% was the number back in 2003.
Yeah.
And so if you think about that, if you think about the importance they are just to the global economy, it's going to have an impact, but I do think it's going to be more of a blip. The other thing I was talking to someone this morning about was how soon, I was asked this question by a client, how soon do you think people are going to start mentioning the coronavirus in their earnings reports?
Right. Well, I was actually just wondering, could it be, you look at LVMH Tiffany, where obviously the China piece is a huge motivation. Could they potentially declare a MAC? I don't think so. But look.
Remind people what a MAC is.
A material adverse change.
So in other words, undo the deal.
Basically, it's where you can
get out of jail free card.
The terms.
But almost impossible. I think there's only been, in Delaware law, there's only been one that's ever been ruled in favor.
And in general, market conditions like this are excluded from that definition. So I think that's difficult. But I do think, if you recall, when Tiffany's had to make comment about their the main store and the impact it was having from being so close to Trump Tower in New York City, since the streets are shut down, you're going to see things like that impacted. You start hearing about Macau shutting down for 2 weeks. You start hearing about Apple and Starbucks closing stores, right? You're going to feel some impact. Now, I do think we'll know a bit more as this plays out, but it'll impact the companies that are exposed to that market. In general,
speaking of M&A, I just want to bring you a quick headline. Intercontinental Exchange approaches eBay about a takeover. That is just crossing the Bloomberg, according to Dow Jones.
Just got 30 seconds here. What would you say to that?
You're seeing a blend of a lot of these companies. We've been talking a big theme this year of convergence.
Yeah.
And so when you take a look at sort of buyers extending their reach in other areas, especially technology related, That's fairly interesting. I haven't spent a lot of time in that space, but that's something I'll be taking a closer look at.
That's a really interesting one. All right, Vito's
eBay
for
shares
Vito.
now up about 5.5% as expected.
We'll keep watching that one. He is the co-head of global M&A over at RBC Capital Markets. Our thanks to him, and of course to Ed Hammond, our M&A man on the scene. A lot to come, including a look at corporate boards. Very appropriate. First, let's get to Bob Moon for world and national headlines.
Jason, while President Trump and Republicans close to him are ridiculing the vote counting debacle that snarled results from last night's Democratic Party caucuses in Iowa, the state's elected GOP officials have been quick to defend the tradition that brings visitors and millions in spending to the state every 4 years. The state's Democratic Party chairman, meantime, is promising to release the majority of results by 4 p.m. local time. The other campaign continues on Capitol Hill, even as lawmakers are supposed to be taking a break from the impeachment trial of Donald Trump. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell delivered a campaign-style speech on the floor of that chamber today.
We must vote to reject the House abuse of power. Vote to protect our institutions. Vote to reject new precedents that would reduce the framers' design to rubble. Vote to keep factional fever from boiling over and scorching our republic. I urge every one of our colleagues to cast the vote the facts, the evidence, the Constitution, and the common good clearly require. Vote to acquit the president of these charges.
Were actually yesterday to clear the way for President Trump's State of the Union address tonight if Trump tries to claim a unified Republican Party, and how he is supposedly bringing the nation together don't believe it. So says Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who's been tapped to give tonight's Democratic response. She tells reporters Americans are tired of the noise and infighting.
Bullying people on Twitter doesn't build bridges.
We'll have live State of the Union coverage with David Weston starting at 9 tonight, Wall Street time, right here on Bloomberg Radio. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
Rich is just a really good guy. The term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich? No. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their business strategically. Yet, the most competitive managers in the market know, with the right partner and a flexible operating platform, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
Determination and operational strength are both essential factors for growth in asset management. I'm Steve Meyer, President, Head of SEI's Investment Manager Services Division. We know that disruptive forces create opportunities around the world. If you see potential in change, our industry specialists will maximize SEI's integrated platform of data and risk management, global investment operations, compliance support, and investor services to position your asset management business for success. Come grow with us.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Are you interested in a
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing.
And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown to Kansas.
Search NFL today.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
You a high-touch service, flexible technology choices, and expert insights, so you can deliver a highly personalized experience to your clients at every step, from onboarding to wealth planning, to performance analysis and more. And because we're part of BNY Mellon, you'll benefit from more than 230 years of strength and stability. At Pershing, we're personally invested in your success.
Visit Pershing.com to learn more about Pershing's integrated wealth experience. Pershing LLC and Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC are both members of FINRA and SIPC.
Message and data rates may apply. T&C and privacy terms can be found at babbel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64,000.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We begin with this headline headline from the Bloomberg Professional Service. Instagram now generates more than a quarter of Facebook sales. Facebook up by 2.8%. And repeating an earlier headline from the Bloomberg, Intercontinental Exchange has approached eBay about a takeover. This according to Dow Jones. eBay shares surging now by 9.9%. Stocks are rallying, treasuries plunging as investors speculate the global economy will withstand any impact from the still spreading coronavirus after China's market sell-off eased. The S&P 500 index up now by 1.8%, higher by 57 points. The Dow up 489 points, also up 1.7%. NASDAQ up 205 points. NASDAQ at a record right now. NASDAQ is up by 2.2%. 10-year down 23.30 seconds with a yield of 1.60%. Gold down 1.6%, 15.51 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude down 0.9%, 49.67 a barrel. So recapping, S&P up 57, up 1.8%. And a reminder, keep it locked in to Bloomberg Radio. We've got the State of the Union coming up 9 o'clock Wall Street time. Disney earnings after the bell, 4 p.m. Wall Street time. Iowa caucus results at 5 p.m. Wall Street time. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week, and this is Bloomberg Radio.
All right, well, this story immediately jumped out to both Carol and myself. It's a topic that we talk about a lot on this show. We talked about it at the Bloomberg 50. It's just something that's very much, as Tom Keene would say, in the zeitgeist. For more diverse corporate boards, move down the org chart. That's the headline on the story by Jeff Green in the latest edition, or the upcoming edition, I guess, of Bloomberg Business Week magazine. Jeff Green, normally based out in Detroit City. He's here with us in New York City. And so is Joel Weber, the editor of Bloomberg Business Week.
How do Detroit people feel about Detroit City? Is that a thing?
You like that? Detroit City? The Rock is understood?
All right.
Come on.
As long as you spell Detroit right, we're good.
All right, good. So, JG, welcome back to New York. Tell us about this story, because this is the constant refrain. People say, all right, we want a more diverse board, but the candidates just aren't out there. There's nothing I can do about it, bro.
Yeah, well, so I started to kind of looking at it backward. I was looking at the number of first-time executives that were showing up on boards. There's a lot more first-timers now on the S&P 500. It doesn't turn over much, but when it does, they're more likely to be first-timers. And I was trying to figure out why. So I started looking at, well, who has the most people? And Marriott jumped kind of to the top. So I went to them. I said, "What's going on here?" And they had no idea that they were in any way would be on this list. And so I talked to Arnie Sorensen, and he said, "It's not really on purpose. We're not trying to be more diverse." But he said, I was one of the first people allowed to be on an outside board at Marriott. He went on Walmart. Now he's on Microsoft. And he said, "I thought it was a great experience." So he made it a requirement that his reports come to their board meetings and kind of see how it works. And then, for those that were interested, he said, "Why don't you think about going on some outside boards?"
Oh, interesting. So this is so non-CEO, but maybe C-suite or kind of...
Yeah, how low?
How low are we going
It's
there?
percolated down to reports at Marriott. So 3 levels down? At least. Yeah. I mean, one of those people that would have been in the story, she just left for another company, but it had been a report to a report to a report.
Perhaps the program's working too well, because one of the things that comes with these positions is oftentimes a little networking effect, right?
Yeah.
And a higher profile.
And a higher pay. It doesn't hurt if you're trying to keep somebody.
So what are those perks?
Well, I mean, you get access to both for the company that you work for and the company you're going to. There's access and networking. The Home Depot and Adobe are a couple of the boards where people from Marriott are now serving. Home Depot in particular, they talk about how it's a customer service. They have people trying to wait on you on the floor. You have people, waiting on you in the rooms, and there's a lot of potential cross-pollination, a lot of things. So it makes a business sense. And it's not just Marriott. I mean, there were several, almost every big company now is letting their lower level executives serve in some capacity. Usually just one, but I mean, one is really all you need for...
One is more than none, which is what it used to be, right? Especially for lower levels.
It's a retention tool. You have somebody you might want to be CEO someday. You put them in this position. Right. They're basically the boss of a CEO. I'm an EVP, but by day, but 8 times a year, I'm the boss of the CEO of a major company potentially.
It's also like an executive program. Like to some extent,
Yes.
if you think about it, you're taking your lower level executives and exposing them to another corporate board and kind of their expertise and what they're working on. And in that way, I mean, there's a payoff for the company as well.
Yeah, and the sort of the collateral undamage, or whatever the good thing that comes out of it is the next layer and the layer below that in most corporations is more diverse. I mean, what is it? 95% of CEOs are white males. It gets better. It's 20% are female, and the numbers get bigger when you get further down.
Well, and the other point you make this in the story is this idea that when boards are looking for new members, they are often not looking for white dudes. They are looking for people of color and women often, and so that it becomes sort of a virtuous sort of situation.
Yeah.
So who else is shining in this regard? If Marriott just happened to stumble into this, what else is happening out there?
Well, it's not. I mean, a lot of companies are doing it for the other reasons. I mean, I think remember Cummins, the industrial company, for no reason they could explain, is really good in this, and big companies like Amex and other companies, it's because they have the policy. I mean, I've written about this in the past. I did an article for Business Week a few years ago.
Imagine that.
When I first saw this kind of happening. And it was interesting. Some of the people I wrote about, one of them now runs General Motors. The other woman now runs AutoNation. They've both been featured in these stories about how they decided, I think it was the CEO of General Motors said, I'm going to put some of my lower level executives out there. And Mary Barra was one of the people who got a shot. And I interviewed her at the time. She was, 2 layers from CEO.
So let me ask you this, because this is right in your wheelhouse. We made a lot of this decision by Goldman Sachs recently to say we're not going to take you public if you don't have at least one diverse member of your board, and a year from now, I believe, or in 2021, it's going to go to 2. Right. How big a deal is that? I mean, you know this space much better than we do. How big a deal is that?
Well, I don't think Goldman Sachs is going to not do a deal. But I don't think Goldman Sachs has to worry anymore that anybody's going to come to them with a board that isn't going to have a diverse candidate. I mean, I think it's going to be basically, I want Goldman Sachs in my deal. I'm going to start looking. Because if you look at most IPOs, when you go just pull them up on the Bloomberg and look at the screen, the last 2 people picked for almost every board are women.
But WeWork wasn't that way.
Yeah, they waited till everybody made a mistake.
Great.
But I'm just saying, a high-profile, IPO that had a lot of different problems, but they didn't have women on their board.
10% of the big IPOs every year don't have any women on the board. I mean, it's not my stat, but I quoted a lot. It was, I think it was 20 women on boards went and looked. They look at the top 25 IPO deals every year.
Yeah.
And they don't, invariably 10%.
10%.
Yeah.
And this is the line in the story that jumped out at me. Although women make up half the workforce, they didn't exceed a quarter of S&P 500 directors until just last year. Right.
Yeah.
So total dearth. What I guess I think about with this framing is overall problem is we know diversity on boards is a problem, right? And novel solution that hadn't been talked about until Jeff did this story.
Right.
It was well, just open up the funnel a little bit. Right. It doesn't have to be top of the food chain. Go down the ladder a little bit.
The company's opening up the funnel.
If you want to see diversity, look for chaos, look for turmoil. We did another story looking at the consumer segment. It's the worst place to be in theory as a CEO at the moment. More CEOs are being fired at consumer companies than anywhere else. However, it's also, if you're willing to be a little risky, it's the great place to be a woman right now. I mean, they have a food chain too. They have a bench.
Yeah.
So you're seeing women just jump to the floor there.
And when you're on a board, even if you're a lower level executive, you get paid for it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's not too shabby.
Yeah, not for nothing. All right, Jeff Green, what a treat to see you here in New York City, managing diversity reporter for Bloomberg, usually based out in Detroit, Michigan. I said it correctly. Detroit City. Joel Weber, editor of Bloomberg Business Week. He is here in New York City.
You can just call it Motor City, bro.
Motor City.
Bro.
Exactly.
Oh my God, there's a lot of broing going on right now. Just saying.
This isn't a good corporate board.
No, not even close. Well done. All right, stick around. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week on Bloomberg Radio and on YouTube.
Business is
keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded. Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing.
And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
On the goal line, Martin scores! He takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Move, hit a shot, they score!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We move into the final hour of trading on this Tuesday with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all pushing higher. NASDAQ set for a record. Stocks are rallying, treasuries plunging as investors speculate the global economy will withstand any impact from the still spreading coronavirus after China's market sell-off eased. As for the China economy and lasting effects of the coronavirus, Henry Peabody is portfolio manager at MFS Investment Management.
Because of the uncertainty around this, Chinese auto sales are likely to dip 10 to 20%. It's probably a Q1 event. Let's remember, China's 20% of the world economy. How much of a global GDP hit is at stake? It's being reflected in oil. It's being reflected in copper. Copper just did a nosedive. So, I think what you need to do is wait for a little bit more value to emerge to actually get involved.
And we will have more on the economy, both in China, here in the U.S. as well, coming up in just a moment, right here on Bloomberg Business Week. S&P 500 index up 54 points. That is a gain of 1.7%. The Dow rallying 451 points, up 1.6%. And NASDAQ up 201 points, a gain there of 2.2%. 10-year down 21.30 seconds, yield now 1.60%. Instagram, the photo-sharing app that Facebook acquired for $715 million in 2012, generated more than a quarter of the social media company's revenue last year. This, according to people familiar with the matter. Facebook shares, they are rallying right now, up by 3%. Ralph Lauren has temporarily closed about half of its 110 stores in China as the nation struggles to contain the coronavirus, but shares are rallying after posting sales that topped estimates globally. Ralph Lauren shares, they're up now by 10.6%. The rally in Tesla shares continues, up another 20% today. Year to date, this is a stock that is up 124%. After the bell, lots of earnings. We'll be keeping a close watch on the Walt Disney Company. Shares up now by 2.7%. Gold down 1.5%. Again, recapping stocks higher. S&P up 55, up 1.7%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, you're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Masser, Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio, also live streaming on YouTube as we speak, covering a lot of things, including, I just kind of rehashed that headline because it's a Bloomberg exclusive. Instagram, the photo sharing app Facebook acquired for $715 million in 2012, generating more than a quarter of the social media company's revenue last year. That's according to folks in the know. And that's from our Sarah Fryer and Nico Grant. It is a Bloomberg exclusive. So we'll have a little bit more on that a little bit later on. In the meantime, let's talk.
Yeah, let's talk economics. Kathleen Hayes is here doing her best cheerleader impression.
She's making fun of me. Go team,
I
go.
was one once.
Give me a B.
Cheerleader / Carol Masser impression. Global economics and policy editor for Bloomberg and featured on Daybreak Asia. We want to talk a lot about what's going on in Asia in just a second. Also, Carl Riccadonna is here, chief U.S. economist for Bloomberg Economics. So, Kathleen, let's talk Asia. Let's talk what's going on.
But I just have to throw it. I just think this is so interesting because we know the Iowa caucus is a big deal, right?
Yep.
We've got the 10-year note down 21.30 seconds. The yield was around 150 yesterday. It's up to 160. You got the 30-year bond yield up to 2.078. And yes, China stimulus. China is really going whole hog. Okay, so that's something. We guess we don't have to buy so many bonds. We had the good manufacturing number, the ISM, on Monday from the U.S. Maybe overstated, but nevertheless, there it is. And then the durable goods orders. Carl will tell us about that in just a minute. Mixed, but I just love the another reason traders are giving that delayed results from the Democratic primary in Iowa are helping to boost yields because it diminishes the odds President Trump loses the election and suggests current policy could continue. And people look at banking, they look at all kinds of things. It's just amazing how this infiltrates everything. But certainly with China, you have to give them credit. They came in whole hog. They wanted, it's not even about immediately boosting the economy. It's providing liquidity so markets stay stable, so confidence remains, that kind of thing. But definitely a bit of a setback for bonds, and I think still a little too early to see where this goes next. But if you're a bond bear, you kind of like this, I'm sure. And if you're a bond bull, maybe you haven't done that yet.
See, and I find this interesting. Carl, come on in on this, because I thought this morning I was listening in on Bloomberg Radio, and just expectations now that maybe we're going to get several rate cuts this year, that traders are starting to factor that in. I mean, there's a lot of different thinking going on right now.
Right. Well, we know that China is taking extraordinary measures to support markets. And so, of course, in globalized markets, some of that will cross international boundaries and boost equity markets elsewhere. So that's one factor. But you also have the expectation that we're going to see more broad-based rate cuts. There's, the U.S. Fed funds market is testing the idea of rate cuts later this year. Brazil likely to cut rates on Wednesday. Right. And also a number of other central banks kind of now toying with the idea of additional monetary policy easing. And if we're looking for even lower global rates, then that is going to create a bid for risk assets. You see the stock market reflecting that, and other risk assets as well.
Well, of course, China is pretty much expected now to jump in a little, not too much later this year, on a couple of their key rates, not their reserve requirement ratios, which are so important, but the LPR, the MLF. They're numbers that actually have to do with borrowing money and credit, et cetera. And I think that will be a big one when it happens. But I think this rate cut question is interesting, Carl, because the last two top Fed officials that spoke were Jay Powell. Now, granted, he talked about the risk of the coronavirus, but said, we don't see a material change yet. Then Rich Clarida on Friday, the vice chair, his number 2 guy, said, it's a wild card. We're still in a good place. So the markets are looking for that. The Fed is obviously, I think, worried about it, but they don't seem. Do you think they're really getting ready to step so soon?
I don't think they're ready to move that soon. If the data start to send a pretty clear signal, then that could, push them there. So they're alert, but they're not getting hot under the collar just yet. And we'll have plenty of opportunity to hear more from Jay Powell next week during the semi-annual monetary policy testimony before Congress, formerly known as Humphrey Hawkins.
Right. And Jobs Day obviously will give us some sense of that, right?
Jobs Day will give us some clarity. So what's interesting, we're all trying to scratch our heads and find parallels, and folks are looking back to 2003 and the SARS epidemic, and then making lots of reasons why we can't look at that comparison. As we're seeing this shutdown, I'm starting to wonder if the supply chain disruption won't look a little bit like the tsunami and Fukushima disaster in Japan, where you saw key parts of industrial supply chains shuttered and then ripple effects through the broader economy. And so Hyundai earlier today announced that they would have to shut down some assembly lines in South Korea because of supply chain disruptions out of China. So that's really what we have to watch, the next shoe to drop. We didn't see signs of that in the ISM survey earlier this week, but really watching those industrial surveys and also anecdotal data becomes that much more important.
What's the tipping point for you folks when you look at the economic impact when it comes to the coronavirus? Is it that our shut down, factories are shut down for a month? Like what's when does it start to really impact economic growth, statistics, and all that good stuff?
Right. So I think the mechanism, first you watch for the sentiment impact. So if equities are swooning and industrial sentiment surveys are swooning, then that's a sign that we're going to start seeing that in the hard economic data. Obviously, as we look at the screens today, very much the opposite is occurring. And so it's telling you that, there's certainly a very serious human tragedy and human toll here. But in terms of economic consequences outside of China and China's closest trading partners, maybe it won't be that severe.
I think a very good point. Yes, because inside China, we know that's going to be the worst damage. And as long as it's more contained as China, Fed probably can just say, yes, this is terrible and move on. But to me, what I'm looking for is, remember in 2019 when the Fed was hiking rates, 2018, and people didn't like it, and cutting last year, and people said, well, what's going on? They said, well, the U.S. economy is fine. We're worried about the overseas risk. We're worried about what's happening in global economies. And I think if we see anything or hear anything that suggests that sentiment impact is spread, supply chains are disrupted, manufacturers have pulled back, and the Fed starts making those kinds of noises, to me, that's where we're going to get a little more sense the Fed is thinking maybe 2020 is becoming 2019.
We have to remember the Fed reaction function now, not that they're running lean on ammunition, so you save it. Actually, you fire it sooner to be proactive.
Better
and that's
to be
what we
safe
saw
than
from
sorry.
the lessons last year.
Yeah.
All right. Carl Riccadonna, thank you so much. Chief U.S. Economist for Bloomberg Economics. And Kathleen Hayes, Global Economics and Policy Editor for Bloomberg. Catch her later on today for Daybreak Asia. For now, speaking of the world and the nation, let's go over to Bob Moon for some headlines. Hey, Bob.
Jason, thank you. He hasn't been acquitted as the Senate is expected to vote in wrapping up President Trump's impeachment trial tomorrow afternoon. The question is, can Trump resist the urge to claim victory when he addresses Congress and the nation tonight on the State of the Union? Republicans have urged him to stay clear of impeachment talk entirely. Trump's aides say he plans to focus on a positive message about his accomplishments. And White House Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gidley isn't expecting Trump to mention the Senate trial.
I've read through the speech and I've not seen the word impeachment. So if he, as he likes to say, we'll see what happens.
We'll bring it to you live at 9 tonight here on Bloomberg Radio. The senators who will vote on impeachment, meantime, haven't been silent about it today. Democrat Chris Van Hollen of Maryland speaking during an open session today.
President Trump must understand this. There is no exoneration, no vindication, no real acquittal from a fake trial.
The chamber's top Republican, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, again slammed the impeachment drive of House Democrats as the most rushed, least fair, and least thorough in history. Well, there was an app for that, and it may not have worked. A new mobile app was supposed to help Democratic officials quickly gather information from some 1,700 caucuses throughout Iowa. Instead, a coding issue within the app is being blamed for delays that have left the results unknown so far in the first-in-the-nation presidential nominating contest. Iowa Democratic Party Chairman Troy Price is promising to release what he calls a majority of the results by 4 p.m. local, that's Central Time. Global News 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
A PAC needs someone to follow.
It's got to be important for somebody to have a breakout moment.
Don't look now, but they're behind you.
Imports declined 2.8%.
Bloomberg Daybreak.
Sources tell us that agreement is expected to include commitments on U.S. intellectual property.
With Karen Moscow and Nathan Hager.
Could we see that play into the results and the forward guidance?
Weekday mornings at 5 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
When you went car shopping, you meant business. You aced vehicle history searches and test drives. You out-salesmaned the salesman. Now you've got your wheels. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll have the info you need to get more for your future. Go to aceyourretirement.org, because when it comes to speeding past financial challenges, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
What if you could keep the top economic experts in a conference room next to your office without having to feed them?
Do we need better optics? Do we need some substance? Do CEOs care about ESG?
We have seen quite a lot of stimulus pumped into the system already.
It's the biggest warning yet about the financial risks of climate change.
Now there are more ways to hear us. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeart.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Good morning, this is your Southern service to London Victoria. Join in our onboard quiz. Here's our next clue. What sea sounds like a handheld party food but keeps you dry and protected from the rain? Not canapes, canopies.
At Southern Railway, we're investing over £7 million into making improvements for you, like canopies, cycle parking and new platform lighting across more of our stations. Find out more and book your tickets at southernrailway.com. Southern Railway, we're with you.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing.
And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown to Kansas.
Search NFL today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Bayless. Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
News 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Lots going on. Busy day. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all advancing. NASDAQ at a record. Let's head right over to the first word breaking news desk for today's afternoon call. Here is Bill Maloney.
And good afternoon, Charlie. That's right. U.S. stocks are soaring today with the Dow currently up 453 points. S&Ps are up 54, while the NASDAQ climbs by 200. The U.S. 10-year yield at 1.6%. Gold trading lower by 23. Small caps climb 14 points, and 10 of the main 11 S&P sectors are also trading higher, led by gains in tech and consumer discretionary. Only utilities fell. Nasdaq Biotechs jumped 2.3%. Transports rise 205 points. Semis are up 3%, and the VIX is down by 11%. Leaders to the upside in the Dow, Caterpillar, Apple, and Dow Inc., while ExxonMobil fell 1% and led to the downside. In deal news, the Intercontinental Exchange approached eBay about a takeover. eBay was up as much as 14% intraday. After earnings, Ralph Lauren rose 11%. And in other news, Tesla soared again, rose as much as 21%. Session high is $9.51 a share. Wrapping things up, some of the names porting after the bell tonight include Chipotle, Gilead, Seagate, and Disney. Live from the first breaking news desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Charlie?
Okay, I thank you very much, Bill. We'll be all over those numbers as they break. To hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg, type SQUAWK, SQUAWK on your terminal. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, so this story, one of the most read on the Bloomberg today, Goldman Sachs is Adam Korn. He's one of Wall Street's most prominent evangelists for rewiring trading desks. I can't say it. Trading desks with cutting-edge technology. Anyway, it talks about the commitment, really, that has been made to technology at Goldman Sachs. And so you do wonder about him stepping down. Sri Natarajan is finance reporter at Bloomberg News. He's in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. He wrote it. Sorry. I'm spending too much time. Twitter's a little crazy today. All right, I'm going to step back from Twitter, and I'm going to focus on Sri.
We're glad you're here. We're going to look you in the eye and welcome you to our home.
Thank you. Tell us about this story, who this guy is, and what he's meant to Goldman, and what it means that he's leaving.
Well, the interesting thing is how much the story has changed just in the last few hours since we published the story, because when we were talking about the story initially, it was Adam Korn, one of the most prominent tech evangelists inside Goldman Sachs across Wall Street. But in the last few hours, we've also heard new breaking news that his boss, who's also one of the most senior engineers there, is leaving the firm. And, some people might find it weird. Why are we talking about engineers when we're talking about a big Wall Street bank, investment bank? Why do I care? They're not the real players. We need to talk about the traders and the investment bankers. Turns out that's not the case. The new Goldman, just last week, they did a huge deal with their big debut investor day where they talked about tech transformation being the centerpiece of their trading vision and strategy. So when you have two people who've been integral to that process, who've been at the firm for so many years, who know all the core products, who've been building it, leaving in the midst of all these initiatives, it feels like a really puzzling move, and one wonders if there's more to it.
What do we make of that,
especially
right?
that it's not like one guy. I mean, there is a trend here. I mean, especially when, as you do in your story, you talk about Marty Chavez, you talk about Alicia Wiesel. Am I saying that right? These are a lot of important people who not only set the strategy, but were executing it and were put forth by Goldman. So what do you make of it?
Let's take a step back. When you think of all the palace intrigue inside Goldman Sachs over the last couple of years, what is it that we've talked about a lot? Ever since David Solomon took over as CEO and the new management was in place, we kept talking about the old guard and people associated with Lloyd Blankfein and the old leaders of the firm leaving, and then in new blood coming in, or people close to the new management taking prominent roles across the firm. However, the moves that we're reporting on this week feel different. These are people who were supposed to be a part of the nucleus of David Solomon's team taking Goldman Sachs forward. The likes of Ezra Nahim, the Adam Korn, these were people who were supposed to be the next generation leaders driving that vision forward. So for them to abruptly leave is definitely a bit of a head scratcher.
So what are you, so scratching your head, but what are you hearing from folks about what it means maybe about what's going on inside Goldman Sachs?
Well, one thing is clear. There's no way, in no way, shape or form does it indicate that Goldman's pulling back from its tech strategy, right? That ship has sailed. No one can have any sort of thoughts about going back on that promise. That is the only way forward for them. And we have talked about a procession of tech innovators who have left the firm, but at the same time, Goldman has tried to offset the losses by bringing in tech firepower from the outside. They've got Marco Argenti from Amazon. They got another senior leader from Verizon. So they have been beefing up talent from outside. And I'm sure over time that these outsiders will also bring in people that they work with closely over the years to fill up the ranks inside Goldman Sachs. And, that's what leads you to wonder maybe some of that tension is at play. Although we have no indication exactly why they left. All we know is last week, these people were all part of the showcase investor day at Goldman Sachs. And suddenly they're not there anymore.
That's weird.
Well, and Sri, as you know, and we certainly around this table, I feel like for years, I remember Jamie Dimon holding some event and talking about the amount of money spending on technology and cybersecurity and all these things. And I think we all at that point, started to say, okay, Wall Street's not just about the finance part. It's a big part about technology. So how do you read this? Is this just another sign? Because as you said, they're not cutting back on their commitment to technology. They brought in some big names. Is it just David Solomon continuing to kind of remake this firm in his image or where he sees it going?
The tech transformation, the people he's put in place is certainly part of the stamp he's leaving on the firm. But the problem is right now when we're talking about that stamp, it's about a lot of the people who are leaving. And I'm sure he doesn't like that. I'm sure he doesn't want that. But he will continue to pour as much money as possible into upgrading the technological system because Wall Street has been overhauled over the last 10 to 20 years. And the change is only going to accelerate over the next decade or so. So you can't walk away from that pledge. So he's continuing to do that. But at the same time, the kind of people who've left, that's a lot of native knowledge.
Right? Especially coming after their
That's
first
a lot
investor
of native
day.
knowledge leaving the building because you have to think of it. In some ways, the bank technology is not the same as the technology of a tech company. You have to build very specific products, and these are people who know the core of the system. So in some ways, for them to leave, you guys got the word right. It is a bummer.
And you could lose, and you can certainly lose some momentum, right? When you're building out tech processes. Bummer. Right. It's a technical term.
Yeah,
it's bummer.go.
Bummer, bro.
BUMR on the terminal.
BUMR.
Wow, right. Bummer, bro.
Exactly. Sri Natarajan, finance reporter for
It's all about the bro
Bloomberg.
today, apparently.
Yeah,
you have no idea, Sri. It's been about the bro.
Corporate broverness.
You want a theme for today? It's about the bro.
It's about the bro. All right. Anyway, bros coming and going. Sri Natarajan, thank you so much. Coming up, Dave Wilson, he's got your chart of the day.
Another
this
bro.
Is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks are sharply higher in the final hour with the Nasdaq on track for an all-time high. Traders are growing hopeful that the economy will see minimal impact from the coronavirus. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 446, the S&P 500 up 53, the Nasdaq Composite up 201. The owner of the New York Stock Exchange reportedly wants to buy eBay. The Wall Street Journal says Intercontinental Exchange has made an offer that would value eBay at over $30 billion. Saudi Arabia may be thinking about what might have been. Its sovereign wealth fund sold nearly all of its 8.2 million Tesla shares last quarter, just before the stock went on an epic run. Tesla has more than doubled in value this year. Oil fell below $50 a barrel as the coronavirus crimps demand and prompts some of the world's biggest producers to consider emergency measures. Crude ended at $49.61, down half a dollar. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba, please be done. Over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
In-depth In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions. The Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast.
How did the Yankees become this mega valuable team?
Where the money is flowing inside sports around the globe.
From the marketing perspective, where are the dollars spent?
From union heads to team owners, Scott Soshnick and Michael Barr speak to the names that power this multi-billion-dollar industry.
Boston Red Sox CEO.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Good morning, this is your Southern service to London, Victoria. Join in our onboard quiz. Here's our next clue. What C sounds like a handheld party food but keeps you dry and protected from the rain? Not canapes, canopies.
At Southern Railway, we're investing over £7 million into making improvements for you, like canopies, cycle parking and new platform lighting across more of our stations. Find out more and book your tickets at southernrailway.com. Southern Railway, we're with you.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing.
And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marshawn scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
You can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught, it is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
Coming up, we're going to check in with Mr. Dave Wilson. Just coming up, we're going to check in with Dave Wilson. Are we not doing that?
Yes, we are.
My hand gestures.
I'm like, what is that? that. Chart of the day. We'll get to that in just a moment. In the meantime, I've got to go over
You're feisty today, by the way.
I totally
came in hot.
Do you know I got like 8 hours of sleep?
I knew that. As soon as I got into the office and you were revved up, I knew that's what happened.
All right. Also revved up is Charlie Pellet.
Always revved up. We've got the feisty bulls today with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all pushing higher right now. Stocks are rallying. Treasuries are plunging as investors speculate the global economy will withstand any impact from the still spreading coronavirus after China's market sell-off eased. S&P right now up 56 points. That is a gain of 1.7%. The Dow up 471 points, also up 1.7%. And we have got the NASDAQ Composite Index up right now by 209 points. For NASDAQ, that's a gain of 2.3%. We are on track for a record close for the NASDAQ 100 Index, also the NASDAQ Composite Index. 28 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell. That means roughly 28 minutes until we get those latest numbers out of the Walt Disney Company. Paul Sweeney is co-head of Bloomberg, or is a co-host of Bloomberg Surveillance and Bloomberg Markets.
Disney is really pivoting the company from the traditional media model, relying upon the cable television bundle to distribute its programming to streaming. So we're talking about Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Hulu. Those are the businesses that are going to be the future for the Walt Disney Company. And I think investors will be looking about the cost, the profitability. When will these streaming businesses actually turn a profit for the Walt Disney Company? The company has disclosed that it's not going to be for another 3 or 4 years.
Disney shares, they're pushing higher now by 2.8%. Another update for Tesla, advancing 22.5%, up $178 today. Tesla is now at $958. After earnings, Ralph Lauren up 10%, Google dropping 2.8%. Again, the S&P 500 index up 55, 10-year down 21/30 seconds at yield, 1.59%. Gold down 1.4%. Crude oil, West Texas Intermediate down 0.6%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks a lot. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg
How long have we
Radio.
been doing this? Are we supposed to? I was trying to save Griff. I was confused. I didn't know either. I didn't know what was going on there.
All right, Dave Wilson's here. He had some walk-in music. I couldn't catch it because people were talking over it.
Can we play that music a little bit more? Griff, can you play it for us?
That girl, show me.
Is that,
I think I'm in love. And it's powerful stuff.
Is it the Mighty Thunderbirds? No.
Yeah, you're sort of there, Jason. The fabulous Thunderbirds. Well done.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If this was Jeopardy, Alex Trebek would be like, sorry.
That's true. But it's not Jeopardy. It's Bloomberg Business Week.
Right.
And we can be
and
charitable.
It's the chart of the day.
All right.
Absolutely.
I did not know it.
Did you know Thunderbirds? Did you know Fabulous or Mighty or the?
I know the Fabulous Thunderbirds.
You knew the.
Okay.
I knew the.
So who's their guitar player if you know the Fabulous Thunderbirds? At least their longtime guitar player.
Did he go out on his own?
He did.
And did he have the video with the women in the background playing guitar?
No. That's Robert Palmer.
That's who, right.
Yeah, it's not Robert
It's actually
Palmer.
Jimmy Vaughn I'm talking about. Stevie Ray's brother.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We got there. It was a little painful, but we got there.
It's all right. It's all good. But why pick that song, Powerful Stuff? Because think of dividends as powerful stuff for stocks. I'll tell you, Keith Lerner sure does. He's the chief market strategist at SunTrust Private Wealth Management. And, he had an update on stocks, report earlier this week. And, a little bit cautious at this point, given the records that we've seen. But when you take a step back and say, well, where are stocks relative to bonds? They're still looking attractive to him. And it comes down to yield. Specifically, the dividend yield on companies in the S&P 500, their shares, relative to the yield on 10-year Treasury notes. And when you ran the numbers as of the end of last week, about 60% of the stocks in the index had higher yields than the 10-year Treasury did. It was just above 1.5%. Right. So, you could argue a low bar to cross. But
so why would you invest in the fixed income market? Why would you invest in bonds, right?
Well, at the very least, you can raise that question.
Yeah.
It provides some underlying support, perhaps, at least in his view, to stocks if, you get, another hit, kind of what we've seen in the last couple of weeks or so. And what the chart does is compare that 60% going back through to the beginning of the current bull market, depending on how you count it. But anyway, since 2010, at the end of January, you don't see a number that comes close to that. There are a couple of years, 2015, 2016, where you were around 50%, but we're not talking 60 here. So it's a real kind of eye-opener in terms of a figure. And if you want to know more, folks, send me an email. I'll get you the chart, the explanation that goes with it, and everything I do going forward. The email address is dwilson@bloomberg.net. That's dwilson@bloomberg.net.
So can we just ask you, was it yesterday that you did the chart on Tesla, chart of the day? What did you make of Tesla up another whatever it is today? I mean, it's just, let me just pull it up. It's up 23% today, gained 20% yesterday.
Well, there are a lot of comparisons being made at this point to the kind of moves you saw in stocks 1999, 2000, as that internet-driven bull market of the second half of the 90s was peaking. And, it's hard to argue that point, if only because of the magnitude of the move that we've seen in Tesla's shares.
But the short position, I feel like, hasn't changed that much. It's still about 17, 18%. I don't know.
It's come down, though. If you look at the number of shares going back to the end of May, and then compared to the latest number that we have from NASDAQ, which is the middle of January, was down about 40%.
Yeah.
But you still had something like 25 million shares sold short. And just to put that in context, I mean, Tesla has 180 million shares outstanding. So it's a fairly big chunk of stock that people have borrowed and sold in anticipation that the price would go down. And the way it's been going up lately, some of those people have got to be, in essence, buying back what they sold, covering their shorts.
Tesla is more overbought than Bitcoin during the height of the bubble. So RSI, the relative strength index, it's
that was an interesting figure for sure.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it is now it's approaching $1,000 a share. It's at 961.
Yep.
And by the way, RSI at the moment, which is on a 0 to 100 scale, it's above 94.
Yep, you're right.
For Tesla.
Right. Wow. But if you look at since December, every time it went above, it went down just to the peak, the high point.
Right, to 70, which is
then went back up.
Considered to be overbought.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Poised to fall, possibly.
All right, David Wilson. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll see you in just a bit for your stock of the day. In the meantime, let's get some world and national headlines now. For that, we go over to Bob Moon here in New York. Hi, Bob.
Jason, thank you very much. We are stuck on news that's not happening today. The impeachment trial in the Senate, for one thing. They're taking a break today so as not to overshadow President Trump's State of the Union address. It's not stopping lawmakers from talking about their voting plans. Largely along party lines, they're taking to the floor of the chamber today to explain how they vote tomorrow afternoon on the articles of impeachment. Something else that still hasn't happened. We continue to await official results from last night's Iowa caucuses. It's a gaffe that has Democrats fuming and Republicans gloating. We will bring you the State of the Union address tonight at 9 with David Weston right here on Bloomberg Radio. And while President Trump and Republicans close to him are ridiculing the vote-counting debacle that snarled results from last night's Democratic Party caucuses in Ohio, the state's elected GOP officials have been quick to defend the tradition that brings visitors and millions in spending to the state. The state's Democratic Party chairman is promising to release the majority of results by 4 p.m. local. That would be Central Time in Iowa. The campaign continues on Capitol Hill. Meantime, even as lawmakers are supposed to be taking a break from the impeachment trial of President Trump for the State of the Union address this evening. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell delivered a campaign-style speech on the floor of that chamber today, urging all lawmakers to vote for the president's acquittal tomorrow. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Bob Moon.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong.
Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right. Use it. To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Why do hedge funds and other alternative managers rely on Pershing for a highly personalized experience? Mark Alderati, a managing director at BNY Mellon's Pershing and head of Prime Services, explains.
In today's fast-paced environment, where the only constants are change and volatility, you need a prime broker who's both steady and agile, focused on supporting your needs so that you can focus on growing your business and producing results. Exceptional client service and advocating for our clients is at the core of what we do. Our award-winning high-touch team is just one of the benefits of working with BNY Mellon. We help alternative investment managers create great experiences for their clients. Whether it's customized financing, securities lending solutions, platform access, or outsourced trading, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and dedicated to meeting your evolving demands.
To learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers, visit Pershing.com. Pershing LLC. Member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
Are you interested in a challenging and
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded. Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing.
And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught, it is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Named us number one in client support, number one in firm leadership, number one in operational support, number one in compensation, number one in professional development support, and number one in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Vattel Shah is Senior Project Engineer at Mott MacDonald, a global engineering consultancy with more than 16,000 employees. He earned his PhD at New Jersey Institute of Technology, and as an adjunct professor, is helping NJIT students explore emerging technologies.
My focus is renewable markets, emerging technologies, the idea of floating cities. What are we doing to develop that? What will happen to the city on the water? Well, you're going to have waves hitting it. You're going to have solar. How are you going to develop plants? How are you going to develop vegetation and farming? That sort of thought process happens at NJIT. We actually plan out what will the city look like. How do we develop that? So in 10 years, we're actually ready to take on those challenges when we have our first development in the water. NJIT also has been doing a lot of work in self-healing materials, so taking the polymers and the new material that we have in our material sciences departments and putting them into things like concrete, things like steel, reinforcing our soil.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We've got stocks pushing higher. 13 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell. 441-point jump right now in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Off our session highs, but up by 1.5%. S&P 500 index up 52. That is a gain of 1.6%. NASDAQ on track for a record close there, up 205 right now. NASDAQ at 94.78, a gain of 2.2%. In the year-to-date column, NASDAQ showing a gain now of 5.6%. So stocks are rallying, treasuries plunging as investors speculate the global economy will withstand any impact from the still spreading coronavirus after China's market sell-off eased. We're keeping an eye on crude oil. West Texas Intermediate down 0.8%. Right now at 49.72, below 50. Brent 54.10. It is down today. That's the global benchmark, by the way, down 0.6%. Gold down 1.5% at $15.53 the ounce. Don't forget, we have got the President's State of the Union address live, 9 p.m. Wall Street time. Disney earnings after the closing bell. Disney up now by 2.8%. And those all-important partial Iowa results coming up at 5 o'clock Wall Street time. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
How about you let me drive?
Oh, no.
Who's gonna drive you home?
Honey, please, I'll do the driving.
Drive on.
Excuse me, I want to drive.
Just drive, baby.
It's the question that drives us.
This is the Drive to the Close.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
It is time for the Drive to the Close. Larry Pitkowski is back with us, co-founder at Good Haven Capital Management, based in Middleborough, New Jersey, back in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio on what, as you know, is a busy Tuesday.
Always seems to be.
It always seems to be. That's very true. What do you make of this market environment? There's, Jason and I kicked off our broadcast saying, man, there's so much uncertainty out there. We're still awaiting news on the Iowa caucuses. We're awaiting, kind of what's the future of Tesla? The stock just keeps taking off and off despite people still questioning some of the fundamentals that are out there. We're worried about the virus. There are a lot of things still up in the air, and yet the market continues to grind higher.
It does. At Good Haven, we are stock pickers and risk managers, and we're really not macro people. And I'd be in a better mood if the market was down than the market being up.
Well, you're
so
a value
much.
person too,
We're
right?
Value people, and it's easier to find bargains on weaker periods.
Yeah.
However, the economy seems okay, and you have very low interest rates. It is harder to find things to do, and asset prices of almost everything are dramatically higher, but you have to deal with the circumstances that are in front of you and try and look for, in a risk-adjusted and risk-averse way, things to do with capital if you find them.
And so, where do you go? What are you picking these days?
Well, if you look at a couple of things that I thought were worth talking about, one, as you mentioned, the coronavirus, and first of all, it's a terrible thing happening from a standpoint of human beings. People have lost their lives. More people probably will, but there seems to potentially be some overreactions in some areas. At Good Haven, we own some Delta Airlines. The stock has been a little bit weak lately,
right?
And they only get 5% of revenues from all of the Asia Pacific region, and it's not a very profitable part of their portfolio. And at 7.5, 8 times earnings, you have the best margins in the airline industry. You have the best balance sheet, and that seems like a cheap stock price to us.
So you'd be buying into it at this point. Are you adding?
We have added selectively. We've owned it. We've added selectively. We own it, in a reasonable size. And we also own American Airlines. Well, but I think that's an industry that has become a much better business and has been weaker lately, and that's where we like to do some fishing.
But they had a good run last year.
They did. It's a very well-run company, although I don't think...
Delta we're talking about.
Delta. I don't think at that kind of at 8 times earnings, with really minimal exposure to what's happening, that seems like a cheap price.
And a 2.8% dividend, to speak to what Dave was just talking about.
Well, and I'm glad you said that thing about American, because I do wonder in a case like this whether you're sort of looking at an entire sector, in this case being the airlines.
We happen to find this sector in general interesting. Yeah. It's become a much better business. You look at the industries consolidated domestically down to 4 main carriers that control 70% of the capacity.
And charging you for everything.
Well,
and getting people to still fly.
Fares low.
Yeah,
fares are low,
depending on the flight.
Yeah,
depends which hat you're wearing. When I see the extra piece as a consumer, I remind myself that I'm an owner, and I smile and I put my owner hat on.
But just think about
it. You hand over your credit card.
By the way, on an inflation-adjusted basis, airline fares have gone nowhere for decades.
Yeah. All right. So Larry says
I can't help myself.
but I just do feel like it adds up, though. If you're checking bags, if you want to potentially eat something, if you want a blanket, if you want to do anything.
If you want to breathe.
If you want to breathe. Elbow room.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Are you breathing?
Well, think about it. You used to be able to move around on an airline so easily, right? And now it's like, no, you can't sit there, because if you want to sit there, we're going to charge you.
I do find it's brilliant. I do find that the experience has been getting better lately, and of course, Delta happens to have the best scores for
Delta. Delta seems to have figured it out a little bit better. I'm an Atlanta guy.
Full disclosure.
I've been flying Delta for a long time, but I will say, as a longtime Delta person, they went through a terrible period. They went through a period where they were the worst.
The industry
I feel like everyone does
a long, difficult period, but I think they've come out of it, and I don't think they go back to that, and I don't think the market has given them their proper due for having become a much better business.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Uncle Warren Buffett. Berkshire is another name that you like. Tell us why. That's not an obvious pick.
I think I call it hiding in plain sight. Who would believe after all these decades of notoriety and unbelievable success that Berkshire would be priced at what I consider to be a very attractive level? It might be, depending on, we don't know what book value was at the end of the year, and let's use that as a rough proxy, but assume the fourth quarter it was up in the high single digits. Berkshire could be priced today at around 1.3 times book value. And it's not, what you have to really appreciate what's beneath the surface. You have a bunch of very strong, big businesses that throw off an enormous amount of cash. Burlington Northern, all the insurance companies. You have a big investment portfolio that's $200 billion probably today. You have talented people all through the organization. You have $120 billion of cash, which is enormous optionality in any kind of a downturn. And he has begun repurchasing stock, probably 10 to 15% below the current price. So it's amazing to me that after all these years, that is available at what I consider to be way below intrinsic value at a very attractive price.
Alphabet, they just reported earnings yesterday, right? Stock's down 2.6%. Big holding for you guys. Have you added on the selling today, or what's your take here?
To go backwards, we've probably made 5 times our money in Alphabet. We did not buy any today.
So been paring back, I think?
No, not very lately. If you sitting on a high quality holding, if it's growing and you feel the intrinsic value is marching forward, can often turn out to be a wonderful way to compound money. I thought the earnings were fine. I think there's all kinds of volatility. I don't think they spend a lot of time guiding investors ahead of earnings, and so you get some volatility. But I thought what they articulated as far as future growth, and they did buy back a lot more stock in the quarter than they have previously. I think it was just fine. And of course, what you pay for a investment matters a lot, and we paid a very good price.
We just want to mention a headline
Yes.
crossing. This is about Boeing said to set its new loan size at $13 billion. So this is all connected with the 737. Yeah. In terms
on
of
the MAX.
Yeah, exactly.
Boeing, is that something that you'd be picking up?
It's an interesting
certainly
thing to
on
look
sale.
at. Well, it does have, the MAX has had an interesting impact on the airline companies, some good and some bad. Good is taking capacity out, and
But
bad
you're not
is
buying Boeing?
not at the moment.
Right.
But it is on the pile. It is on the pile.
Just going to say.
Larry Pitkowski, co-founder, portfolio manager over at Good Haven Capital Management. Always good to catch up with you. We're going to get you to the close of trading on this green day. This is Bloomberg.
Bloomberg Daybreak Asia.
How should investors be positioning?
We go there.
Let's talk about export numbers because they've been quite shocking. Korea, we saw Singapore, Japan too.
Tonight at 6 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
This is a Bloomberg Pursuits look at luxury. Want to be billionaire Lloyd Blankfein's neighbor? For the sum price of just $260, you can, at least in name. A one-bedroom condo on the same floor as Blankfein's four-bedroom at a Miami Beach tower is being bought by Compound, a firm that slices its holdings into bite-sized equity stakes and sells them off to everyday investors.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing.
And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
Start hearing more of what you want.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Today at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. A record for NASDAQ, the Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all advancing. Late session fade, but again, stocks pushed higher. Folks from UBS Securities ringing that closing bell as we await the latest numbers out of the Walt Disney Company. Disney shares ahead of earnings up today by 2.4%. Stocks rallied. S&P 500 index up 1.5%, biggest gain since August. Amazon closes above $1 trillion valuation mark for the first time. Amazon shares advancing today along with the rest of the market. Treasuries plunged as investors speculated the global economy will withstand any impact from the still spreading coronavirus after China's market sell-off eased. S&P up 48, up 1.5%. The Dow up 409 points, up 1.4%. NASDAQ rallied 194 points, again a record there, up by 2.1%. Larry Pitkowski is co-founder at Good Haven Capital Management. Moments ago right here on Bloomberg Business Week, he talked to us about the market backdrop.
The economy seems okay, and you have very low interest rates. It is harder to find things to do when asset prices of almost everything are dramatically higher, but you have to deal with the circumstances that are in front of you and try and look for, in a risk-adjusted and risk-averse way, things to do with capital if you find them.
It was another up day for Tesla so far this year. Tesla shares up 112% for the year today, rallying another 13.7%. Tesla now at $887.06, did close below $900. Intercontinental Exchange has made a takeover offer for eBay that could value the company at more than $30 billion. This, according to Dow Jones. Shares of eBay today up by 8.8%. Ralph Lauren jumping the most in 3 months after posting sales that topped estimates. Ralph Lauren up by 9.1%. Again, we are awaiting the latest numbers out of the Walt Disney Company. S&P up 1.5% today. The 10-year down 19/30 seconds at yield 1.59%. Gold down 0.9%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Your next move will be your last.
Nobody move a muscle.
Damn, Sippy, you got some moves.
And I'm moving on from town to town.
Time is money. Let's go. Come on, move it.
Shake it up. Shake it up.
Bloomberg Business Week, Movers and Shakers with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, folks, time to take a look at some of the stocks on the move for the Tuesday trade as we await earnings today. They are coming from Disney. They'll come after the closing bell. I do want to mention a story crossing the Bloomberg terminal. This is coming from Dow Jones. Macy's planning to close 125 department stores over the next 3 years. Wow. An admission that a fifth of its locations cannot thrive as shoppers buy more online and make fewer trips to malls. Company is also cutting roughly 2,000 corporate jobs, 10% of the corporate and support staff, closing several offices. It's going to abandon a dual headquarters in Cincinnati. It's a structure that they have had since 1994. It's going to put all of its headquarters roles in New York City. And just take a quick look at what
stock's essentially unchanged.
Macy's is doing in the after hours.
I just looked at it. It ticked up slightly with that headline crossing. That's according to Dow Jones.
It was down 43% last year. Like everybody's kind of in a wait and see mode when it comes to some of the retail names.
Stock. I mean, the market cap for Macy's at this point, it's a $5 billion company. I mean, which is not that big,
not anymore
compared to some of its peers. I mean, you look at just by way of comparison. Lululemon, that's a $32 billion company, by the way.
I know. But this is how things are different. Let's not forget, I think Ford is also going to come out with their earnings after the closing bell. So as soon as they cross.
Can we talk about Tesla?
Yes, let's do that.
All right. Or did you break down the split of the S&P and all that good stuff?
427 names in the S&P, so it was a risk-on trade.
Very much a green day, for sure, and nothing greener than Tesla in a lot of ways. It paired its gains a little bit as we got to the close there, closing only up 14% after being up 20% yesterday. It was up as much as 24% today, but still
and down a little bit in the after hours. It's down about 0.5%. So,
but still, this is a $159 billion company. We were talking not that long ago about it crossing $100 billion. That unlocks some value.
It's $160 billion market cap.
Yeah,
that is.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Maybe it's crazy.
And, I ran into Matt Winkler, our editor-in-chief emeritus, upstairs when I was getting a snack earlier today. And all he said to me, he saw me from across the link there on the 6th floor, and he just goes, Tesla!
All right, Disney is crossing, so let's break it down as we speak. So Disney crossing the Bloomberg terminal. First quarter revenue, folks, a little bit of a beat, $20.86 billion, $20.81 billion was the estimate. First quarter adjusted EPS, $1.53, 7 cents better than what Wall Street was forecasting. And they break down their businesses. Media Networks revenue, $7.4 billion. That's a beat. The estimate was for $7.13 billion. Parks, Experiences, and Consumer Products revenue for the first quarter, that was $7.4 billion. And cable networks revenue, that too was a beat, $4.8 billion versus $4.49 billion. Disney Plus subscribers, this is big. We want to know about the streaming business. 26.5 million versus an estimate, Wall Street was looking for 20.8 million. That, I think, is a pretty impressive number, and the stock is up about 2.6% here in the after hours. It's a very competitive space. Disney Plus. They have priced it inexpensively. I also think there are packages where you get ESPN as well.
ESPN, Hulu, and Disney Plus altogether.
So it
stock
looks
is
like
about 2.5%. Let's take a look quickly at Ford. Not so happy there. Ford fourth quarter adjusted EPS coming in at 12 cents. That is a miss. The estimate had been for 17 cents. Automotive revenue in the fourth quarter coming in at $36.7 billion. That actually beat the estimate of $36.3 billion, but those shares are going down. The red headline, the forecast, seeing 2020 adjusted EBIT at $5.6 billion to $6.6 billion. Wow. The estimate there had been for 7.37.
Investors, man, they're not happy. The stock's down about 7.5% here in the after hours. Disney first quarter total Hulu subscribers, 30.4 million. So those headlines, again, Disney shares up about 2.7%. Tuna Moby, who's been following this space and that company for a long time, he's going to join us in a little while. First quarter ESPN Plus subscribers, 6.6 million. I think of John Skipper, who you talked to at the Power Players Summit. I spoke to him years ago when he was at ESPN. It was the juggernaut for Disney, but these numbers are showing that a lot of their businesses are bringing in a lot of money.
Also fascinating that Disney Plus comes in with 20 million plus subscribers. Hulu, which has been around a lot longer, only has 30.4 million. It just shows you the power of the Disney brand.
All right, let's do the VIX really quickly, and let's bring in then Dave Wilson with his stock of the day. VIX right now, no surprise, stocks rallying. VIX down more than 10%, closing at 16.14. This is Bloomberg.
All right, Dave, you're up. Hi, my name is Dave.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson!
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
We're going for the price on Wilson.
Open up the door, it's Dave. Who? Dave.
Hey, Mr. Wilson!
Dave Wilson back with us. Started to squeeze you on your stock. What you looking at?
Regal Beloit, Jason. It's a maker of electric motors, transmissions, and related products. Company's been around since 1955, went public in 1978. The ticker is RBC. The shares rose to a record in 2013 and been up and down since then. They've tried 4 times since 2017 to surpass their peak and failed every time. And the latest attempt occurred 3 weeks ago. While the shares then slumped, they recouped most of the loss today after fourth quarter results were well received. Regal Beloit's revenue beat analyst average estimate in a Bloomberg survey after falling short in the first, second, and third quarters. Earnings surpassed projections, and so did the midpoint of the company's profit forecast range for this year. The results and outlook sent Regal Beloit shares to their biggest gain since October 2011. They rose 8.1%, and all they have to do is go up another 4% to surpass that peak from 2013.
All right. That's a good name. Thank you so much, Dave Wilson. We're going to continue to watch Disney and Ford, those stocks moving, shall we say, in opposite direction. And I'll just let you know, Disney's on the upswing.
Yeah, it is.
All right, let's get to Bob Moon now. He's got your world and national headlines. Hi, Bob.
Jason, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said on the Senate floor today that the trial he directed gave both sides a fair platform. He said the Senate was under no obligation to hear new live testimony during the trial if it was, as he put it, not necessary to decide the case. Then he complained that the evidence presented didn't come close to supporting the president's removal.
Doesn't even approach it.
Democratic leader Chuck Schumer continued to insist Republicans are hiding the truth.
It's a serious charge. The Republicans refused to get the evidence because they were afraid of what it would show, and that's all that needs to be said.
The impeachment proceedings are on hold for President Trump's State of the Union address. Senators have spent the time during an open session explaining how they've decided to vote. Billionaire Michael Bloomberg is doubling the already massive amount of money he will spend on advertising, an effort to lift his Democratic presidential bid and capitalize on the chaotic outcome of the Iowa caucuses where he did not compete.
I hear something happened in Iowa, or didn't happen. I don't know which.
Still can't figure that out.
An exact dollar figure was not provided, but the former mayor of New York City has already spent over $300 million on TV, radio, and digital advertising, according to the tracking firm Advertising Analytics. Michael Bloomberg is the founder and majority owner of Bloomberg LP, the parent company of Bloomberg Radio. The chairman of the Iowa Democratic Party, meantime, has promised a majority of caucus results will be released within the coming hour. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
Financial leaders enjoy talking with Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrell.
What was it like having the giant darken the door every once in a while?
Experts appreciate it when what they have to say is understood.
Do you think that we might have seen a cyclical peak in the labour market?
It's the same reason we're recommending Bloomberg Surveillance to you.
Everything you thought would happen is happening.
Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Hi, I'm your host, Smokey Cole Bear, filling in for Smokey, because after 75 years of...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Turns out there's much more to say. Nearly 90% of wildfires are caused by us humans being careless, dumping our used barbecue coals willy-nilly. Guess the song was wrong. We did start the fire. That's why I respect Mother Nature and her trees, whether coniferous or new car scented. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, keep me out the cold jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, East London jobs, West London jobs, extra hour in bed jobs, startup jobs, late start jobs, get home in the daylight jobs, banking jobs, building jobs, flexible working on a Friday jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
Finding your perfect new home can be tough. So if you keep missing out,
it's time to search at On the Market.
There are thousands of new properties to buy or rent every month at onthemarket.com. 24 hours or more before they're on Rightmove or Zoopla.
On the Market.
See them first. Set up a property alert today.
Search onthemarket.com to find your perfect home.
If you're in the market, search onthemarket.com. See onthemarket.com/new and exclusive. Agents specify exclusivity.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded. Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Welcome to Cathay Island. We hope you've enjoyed flying Cathay Airways. Oh, and Cathay, congratulations on the Euro Millions win.
This Friday's Euro Millions is a massive £105 million super jackpot. That's dream come true money. Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Estimated jackpot. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing. And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April. Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds, or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Lots of breaking news after the bells. Keep with Bloomberg for the very latest. Walt Disney Company reporting adjusted earnings per share for the first quarter that beat the average analyst estimate. Disney's first quarter adjusted EPS $1.53. Estimates there were for $1.46. First quarter revenue $20.66 billion. Estimates $20.81 billion. First quarter Disney Plus subscribers 26.5 million. Estimates there 20.8 million. We do have Walt Disney shares trading higher now, up by 1.5%. Snap plunging 11.9% right now. Fourth quarter daily active users 218 million. Estimates 214.2 million, but revenue missed estimates again. Snap plunging by 11.8%. Ford's 2020 getting off to the roughest of starts, with the automaker forecasting profit well below analyst estimates. We do have shares of Ford plunging now by 8.7%. Also, Macy's is going to be closing 125 department stores over the next 3 years. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all higher today. S&P up 1.5%. The Dow up 1.4%. NASDAQ up 2.1%. NASDAQ, by the way, climbing to a record. 10-year down 20-30 seconds. Yield 1.59%. Gold down 1.4%. 15.54 the ounce. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks a lot. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
So you know that theme song, and we are going to talk about Disney. We're going to talk really overall about the world of media. With us is entrepreneur and media executives working and investing in finance, entertainment, tech, sports. His early stage venture fund focusing on e-commerce, advertising, tech, and digital content. So much to unpack there. Delighted to have with us Mark Patricof, founder of Patricof Company, in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio, along with our Shanali Basic, who covers the financial space for us. So we're going to round table this. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So we're going to jump right in on Disney. I don't know how much of you saw of their earnings, but it does seem like first quarter subscribers for Disney Plus,
killed it.
26.5 million, 20.8 million was the estimate.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, we have to figure out how many of those are actually going to pay for a full year versus signed up, but I'm happy for them. I mean, they've done an incredible job. What does Netflix have? 60-something million subscribers worldwide, and now Disney has almost half of that in 3-4 months.
Well, and also notable, we were saying this as the numbers came out, you know, Disney Plus already has 20-plus million, and Hulu, you know, it's been around for a while, as you well know, only has 30. I mean, like, to be able to get that out of the gate, is that just brand power?
Well, I mean, I think JVs are very tough. So Hulu was always kind of a head scratcher in lots of ways. We had multiple companies controlling it. Now we'll see. I think that kind of get pulled into shape in a different manner, and new leadership obviously is coming in. I think Disney is a remarkable company. I think they've been that way for a long time. In fairness, I advised them on a bunch of different things during my investment banking days, including advising the buyer. By the way, Disney put me in a position to advise the buyer of Miramax, and so I've been inside, outside, and around the company for a long time. I love that strat planning group. I used to hire people from there almost exclusively. They just think about things the right way. And Iger, I read his book over Christmas. Yeah. And interestingly,
Jason keeps quoting it.
Oh, yeah, it's a great book, and I emailed him right away. And I said, honestly, Bob, I read 10 business books this year. It was the most interesting for a lot of reasons. I think you were accurate on everything. I really respect the fact that he started working in his 20s at a company and stuck it out and made good strategic choices. Yeah. Took real risks still, and 43 years later, can claim, I think, ownership of the best strategy that company has had in its existence.
Well, and a lot of credit to him, both in general as a human, and even in that book where he was very human in the book too. 100%. I mean, it starts on a very raw note with the death at the alligator. Yeah, absolutely. So interesting.
Well, and I just want to follow on that because we talk about a lot of books that we read, and they're sometimes they come off like I just get everything right, and it's great to have kind of some folks who are very real and saying I made some mistakes or I learned from this.
Yeah, I mean, it looked kind of simple to me when I first opened it, and I realized it's actually not simple at all. And the truth is, and I'm a career entrepreneur. I spent 6 years at a talent agency in Hollywood, and then basically went off on my own until I sold my business a few years ago and left again to start my new company. But the ego that's involved with being an entrepreneur is very different than the ego that's involved in staying with one thing and building it. And you forget that it's not only people say entrepreneurs, what a great thing. You miss out on mentorship and trial and error in a different kind of way. And I think he has put together a remarkable career. And look, I wish he'd run for president. In the day today, when we're sitting here thinking about Iowa and other things, we could use better candidates. And I know he considered it. I mean, so did Howard Schultz, which I didn't think was a good idea. But it's we need leadership, and leadership comes in all shapes and sizes. And I think he's just nailed it. So I'm really happy to see Disney perform that way. I expect to continue whatever the number trajectory is. I mean, look, I think they outperformed the Dow and the S&P in the last whatever number of months. So, I mean, they're clearly
which
doing
is saying
well.
Something.
Yeah, absolutely.
How well the market's done.
The question will be whether people start to value Disney based on the number of subscribers. I mean, that's an internet thing, which or a streaming thing, which may not be a good thing for Disney long term.
Not to be a Debbie Downer, but doesn't it create another volatility aspect to their earnings that we maybe not have not seen from Disney before?
I mean, another metric people are going to
right.
Sure. As long as it's an upward trend, then it's fine. When it's not, then someone will say something like that.
It's interesting. The stock is trading slightly down now.
Is it down?
In the after hours? Yeah, just
almost too good.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, it's down about 0.5%. Well, and what do you make of the streaming wars in general? We've talked so much, coming into 2020 about all of these new entries. What does it mean for Netflix? What does it mean for the space? Is there enough to go around, enough eyeballs to catch?
I was on here, I don't know, a year and a half ago, and I said something that made Netflix so upset. The head of IR called me. And I just said, at the end of the day, and it's not to dump on Netflix. They've been great. They've transformed the world in lots of ways. But the fact is, it's a brand, and there's not much differentiation between Netflix and Amazon Prime.
Your quote was, "I would never be long on Netflix."
I wouldn't be. I still wouldn't be. And by the way, they will max out at some point. Whether it's 300 million subscribers, there will be a point in time when it will have to flatten. If that's the only metric for growth, there will be a problem. Whereas if you are Disney or you are another diversified media company,
Mark, is it because there's really no loyalty? I don't care whether I'm watching Netflix or Apple TV or whatever. I don't really care.
Couldn't care less. And by the way, let's not forget, at some point, people are going to get wise, and they're going to look at their credit card bills, and they're going to see, well, I opted into this, and that, and all of a sudden I'm paying $10 for this and $17 for that and $14 for this. And I've got cable television, I've got Spotify, and I've got the New York Times, and I've got Apple, and I've got Amazon Prime, which, by the way, I'm buying my groceries from, so I can't really churn Amazon Prime. So if Amazon Prime wants to continue selling groceries and they think media is the way to do it, I'm not happy if I'm Netflix.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Stick around. We're going to keep you and pepper you with
We're
a
just
lot
gonna
more
keep it for
questions.
2 hours.
Yeah, we're just going to
So
keep
get
it.
comfortable,
Just
get your
like
pillow.
get you a drink, whatever you need. Mark Patricoff, founder of Patricoff and Company, done so much in the media space. We're going to talk a little bit about politics and other things going on in media and
Just
deals.
scratching the
Shonali
surface.
Bosick
He thinks I'm
is here with us
kidding.
as well.
Lock the door.
Yeah,
Lock the door.
exactly. He can't get out. This is Bloomberg Radio.
I love radio.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks had their best day since August as traders grew more hopeful that the economy can withstand any impact from the coronavirus epidemic. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 408, the S&P 500 climbed 49, the Nasdaq Composite surged 195 to a record high. Tesla backed off from its high for the day, but still finished with a gain of nearly 14% at nearly $900 a share. Tesla alone boosted the Nasdaq by almost 13 points. eBay gained almost 9%. Intercontinental Exchange, owner of the New York Stock Exchange, reportedly wants to buy the company. The Wall Street Journal says ICE has made an offer that would value eBay at over $30 billion. Macy's is getting smaller. It plans to close 125 stores in the next 3 years and cut about 2,000 corporate jobs. Its Cincinnati office also will close. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. She wasn't even really sure where she was at.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it. I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, we'll figure it out.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions. The market.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded. Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
5 is in! What a run! Touchdown, Kansas City!
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years and second in franchise history.
50, Watkins, 10, chase to the 5, into the end zone, touchdown! That may be all she wrote!
While the NFL's 100th season may be over, football never stops on TuneIn. Search NFL Podcast to stay current with all the off-season wheeling and dealing. And get ready for the 2020 NFL Draft in April.
Start hearing more of what you want. Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade. Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown to Kansas.
Search NFL today.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June. featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA On Demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64,000.
Listen, as a hiring manager, I've got to tell you, the best job candidate isn't always the typical candidate. Sometimes they're a grad of life.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Sometimes the best candidates aren't the ones you're used to.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrow.
Is that good for American finance?
What is happening with the headcount?
Right, where it counts. Bloomberg Surveillance, weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
So there's a lot going on, and we're going to continue our conversation with Mark Patrickhoff talking about media and sports, but we've got to remind everybody that we're going to be hearing also from the Iowa Democratic Party chair on that caucus results. So as soon as we start to hear them speaking, we will take you live to Iowa to hear a little bit more about those results.
In the meantime, let's get an update on all those things happening after the market close with Charlie Pellet.
Hey, Charlie. Thank you very much. Lots going on, but we love it here at Bloomberg. Speaking of media and sports, let us begin with the Walt Disney Company. Shares are now trading lower. Did see an initial pop after those numbers broke shortly after 4 o'clock Wall Street time. Right now, the Walt Disney Company shares, they are down by 0.7%. Adjusted EPS for the first quarter did beat the average analyst estimate. Also, revenue coming in better than expected. $20.86 billion. Estimates there, $20.81 billion. First quarter, Disney Plus subscribers, 26.5 million. Estimates, 28.8 million. But really, in the past few minutes, we have seen Disney shares move from the positive side of things down to the negative side, down now by just about 1%. Ford Motor forecasting profit well below analyst estimate. Shares plunging now by just about 10%. Also after the bell, Snap reported quarterly earnings that missed Wall Street estimates, sending the stock down by about 10% in extended trading. Chipotle reporting comparable sales for the fourth quarter that beat the average analyst estimate. And Match Group missed revenue estimates in the fourth quarter, also delivered a disappointing forecast for the current period. Shares tumbling now by more than 11% in extended trading. So again, we do have U.S. stocks advancing today with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all climbing. S&P up 1.5%, the Dow up 1.4%, NASDAQ up 2.1% at a record today, up 194 points. The 10-year, the yield there, 1.60%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Massar, along with Jason Kelly. I know, I'm pointing.
I know, you're doing a lot of pointing. All right, let's do it. Mark Patrickhoff's still here, founder of Patrickhoff and Company, been in and around media and sports. And I want to talk a little bit about sports. We were at, I was going to say we're at the Super Bowl. We weren't actually at the Super Bowl, the game, but we did broadcast from Miami last week. And tell us what's going on at that intersection of media and sports right now, because you talk about streaming, but there's something even bigger, it feels like, happening between media and sports?
Something's happened for sure in sports in the last 20, 25 years. You know, the NFL Network does this lead up to the Super Bowl every year, and they show the 30-minute clips of each Super Bowl back to the 1960s. Yeah. You remember the Chiefs, I think, won the first or the second Super Bowl 50-something years ago, and it was a very different thing then. I don't know that I have a specific answer for you. I mean, clearly sports rights fees are off the roof. I mean, globalization of sports, the NFL has done a really good job, as has the NBA. I just heard something, by the way, which I think is interesting, which is not exactly an answer to your question, but the NBA salary cap is going to go down, I think, by $3 million, almost entirely due to the fact that Daryl Morey made that mistake when he was in China, and the sales of NBA merchandise and ticketing and streaming rights and broadcast rights from China are so integral to the overall P&L. Right. They have to lower the salary cap.
Actually drop the salary cap.
So I don't. That's not really an answer to your question, other than clearly sports has become a bigger and bigger thing. Also, live appointment programming. There just isn't anything. No offense to you or anyone else who's doing news. Yeah. News seems to go on 24 hours a day.
By the way, I mean the business of being Tom Brady on Hulu.
Right.
Right. I mean, what is the business of being an athlete outside of sports?
For some, I mean, look. The reality is, we have, not to plug what we're doing, we have 60 clients. They're not all Tom's on a client, but we have plenty of athletes, I think, that are at that level, but not all of them. I mean, Tom Brady is in and of himself